Hello, hello. What's the. Hold on a second. I've got to turn down my iPad volume here. And then. What's going on? Okay. Damn it. Okay, hello.
Technical difficulties, my love.
It was like it was actually really odd there. Volume here. Oh man, now I'm really having technical difficulties here. Okay. Jesus Christ. I'm totally I'm totally off here. Standard. Okay. There. Hello.
Technical difficulties, my love.
It was like it was actually really odd there. Now I'm getting the delay of my own now I'm fucking really having technical thing in here. Difficulties here. There we go. All right. Everything's fixed now. Jesus Christ. People laugh
I
every time I have problems starting it up.
I will not. I'm going to leave right now because I got some stuff to do. But what the fuck was that accent? What was that?
You want to talk about Massaria first?
While this
Um
thing downloads, so I can make this fucking video. Sure.
so I went
You know what it
back and
sounds like, though?
I
It sounds like an
re-listened.
American girl doing a Russian accent, and it somehow comes out French. That's what it sounded like. It just did not. That sounded
It
stupid.
sounded kind of French colonies to me. Like to me it sounded more something like Cajun or Haitian or West African. Like it was definitely trying to be French, but it had a different sound to it. And so like of maybe a variant French or a country that where they speak French as a second language, like in West Africa or something. So that's where that's what I got out of it. Um, it was an interesting choice. It
It's
didn't
so
take away
weird.
from me, but like um, we've heard Lyseni accents before though, right? And they weren't like
Dude,
that. But
weren't you the one who said like everyone from the North in Game of Thrones had the dumbest accent and made no sense?
well, Game of Thrones is really inconsistent with accents in general. You know, the biggest joke is the fact that Gendry and Davos are supposed to be from the exact same area of town and have vastly different accents. You know, like that's the most
Yeah.
obvious. Like almost anything else, you can kind of make excuses. Like, well, maybe the White Harbor accent is different from the Winterfell accent or whatever. Um, but I think when you have like a really noticeable accent like Davos right next to a like a Gendry accent, you're like, really? That's flea bottom? Okay. All right,
By the way, I had an interesting theory about real quick before I go because my thing's done downloading. I'll join back when I'm done. But I had an interesting theory about the crab feeder.
Mm,
I would love it. I would love it if the crab feeder was somehow in cahoots with Damon or Otto Hightower, just to like for extra bits of scheming. In the books,
yeah.
that's not the case, but here that would be fucking chef's kiss.
Well, in Fire and Blood, and I make some somewhat snarky comments about this in my overanalyzing House of the Dragon series. That like
What you?
they just kind of George just kind of has Tyrosh, Lysa, and Mir doing stuff, and there's this triarchy formed, and we don't really have an explanation for how it connects to the Mirish invasion of Tarth that killed Rhaenys' father, Aemon. And there's this that was from like a different Mirish faction that like broke off and like invaded Tarth, and there's no real explanation of anything. Um, it's rather clear that Mir at least was unstable, and yet they go to war with Volantis, and then they all have this alliance afterwards after their war with Volantis, and the triarchy it exists as a plot point only to distract Daemon Targaryen for a number of years and to later kidnap Viserys II and get rid of Aegon the Third's dragon. But like other than that, they're a pretty useless plot point in Fire and Blood. But they're they're just kind of there. Um, but like I say, had I designed the whole series, I would have had multiple locations, and had the map going from King's Landing to Dragonstone and Driftmark to Lice and Old Town, and at least have that be the world rather
Oh, you're talking
than
about, yeah. So that intro, you didn't like it, huh?
let's talk about intro.
I I
Ah,
I got I got to bounce for a bit. I'll be back in like an hour. Hold on.
okay.
See you in a bit.
Intro. I don't know if it did anybody like the intro because it's let me jump. I'm gonna jump back here, but I don't know if anyone. Some people liked the intro. What was even the intro? What even was the intro? So the intro appeared to be like if I'm just going on like what my eyes caught as a super fan, like it seemed to be Valyria, and I'm basing that on Viserys's model. So it seemed to be Valyria, and then it seemed to be the flow of blood going down like a family tree, implying that the connecting of bloodlines is the thing that's power. It's very, I mean, this is very fucking Dragonless Ambitions, Dragon X, like kind of theories that it's like it's like proving everything. Like it's proving like Dragonless Ambition or not, like the Wars of Dragon, of War and Dragons, like um kind of correct. We'll see, but it seems to be a family tree with blood, and then the various um, unlocking seals appear to be kings or queens in the Targaryen family tree. And going back, you can't really tell, but looking at it, I'm guessing that it went from Aegon the Conqueror to his sisters, weirdly, to Aenys, to Jaehaerys and Alysanne, and then maybe the rest of the characters like Viserys and Daemon and Rhaenyra. It gets a little confusing, but the first ones seem to be a little clearer, and then it starts getting confusing as they start going down channels and everything, and then the the fire going, the blood going into the big pit of fire, either creating dragons or maybe creating war or whatever, right there. But that's I my problem with the intro. I mean, it would be a cool thing to see once, but I think that seeing that same intro every week isn't wouldn't be very interesting as opposed to like Game of Thrones where you're like looking for a new city. It's also the information wasn't clear. Had they put like their names, like Aegon, like Rhaenys, um, Rhaenys and Visenya, like and gone through Aenys, Jaehaerys, Alysanne, like you would have had a little more there. I did think there was a Maegor disrespect. Um, I think Maegor was not seen on there, which but at least if it were information that people could take in, that was educating them, it would be a little better. I mean, that's what's great about the Game of Thrones intro is that it's beautiful and entertaining, but at the same time you're gaining information. Like, oh, this is the map. These are the cities that I'm going to see in the in the episode. So I do think it was way too confusing. The fact that like as a super fan, like going through and being like, well, I think that might be Amy's. Like, if I'm not getting it and you guys aren't getting it, is my mom gonna fucking get it? I don't know. Like, I don't know. So, and then I showed it to my wife because I wanted a second opinion on it before I was so negative. Because everybody's like, "Oh, Preston's so negative about everything." Like last episode, I'm like, "Oh, it's really great. It's like 7 or 8 out of 10," and I'm getting it's nothing but messages of how like I'm so fucking negative. Um, but I showed it to my wife, who has never she watched like one episode of Game of Thrones and didn't like it. And she's just like she watches it and she's like, it's just kind of gross. I was like, okay. ocean like flowing rivers of blood. Um, but let's get. But like I said, I would have structured the show a little different. I like some people are like, oh, it's like this episode was a little slow. I think we can all agree that it was much slower than the first episode. Um, and so some people are like, oh, like should they be jumping right into the war immediately? And I'd say like, no, I had I structured the show, I would have done it differently. I would have moved it slower. I would not be I like the first time I heard about the timeline that we'd probably be getting to the start of the Dance of the Dragons at the end of the first season. I was like, what? Like, what are you gonna do with like the rest of the series? It's just gonna be battles. Um, I would have created multiple locations with multiple characters. I would have created like a lice story with a lice protagonist that we would be following, and and then maybe an Old Town story, and maybe like a Winterfell story, like and then you could move the plot slower. Um, maybe not do the actor shift until season two or something, and I don't know. I probably how I would have done it. And then you would have been had a nice little map in the beginning. But it's it is what it is. I'm not a professional writer, so um let's freaking go. Old Town Conspiracy. Those looks between the Maester and Otto Hightower. Yeah, no, there definitely seems to be um definitely a Maester Hightower Otto Hightower conspiracy going, or at bare bones minimum, a Melos Otto Hightower conspiracy. The interesting thing is that they've totally have not put Lionel Strong in the conspiracy. Like Lionel Strong um, is this is two episodes in a row where he's gone like directly against Otto Hightower, which in Fire and Blood he's a crony. Like he was placed there by Otto Hightower. Harrenhal was the host of the Council of 101. His children, Laris and Harwin, do all sorts of crazy stuff. And so it's interesting that they've made him not part of the conspiracy. By the way, weirdly, the Harwin Strong Viserys conversation was one of my more liked scenes of the episode. I think my favorite scene of the episode was actually Rhaenys Rhaenyra. I thought that did really really well. But um I I really liked the small council scene between Lionel Strong and Viserys. Like I don't know what it was about the way the actor for Lionel like presented himself, but he was just very engaging to me, and I liked that scene a lot. I don't know what it was. Um, I thought it was decent, but the Massaria actress is awful. I've seen her in other things. She's a fine actor. I just think the accent thing is a poor choice. Um, but she's been in a lot of stuff. I think most famously she was in Crazy Rich Asians, but she's okay. She just it's just I think the accent was a bit odd for people. So I don't know. The like why did she necessarily need the foreign accent? We've seen people from Lice. Uh, I'm trying to think. Salador Sand had a foreign accent in Game of Thrones, but at the same time, like Dario doesn't use a foreign accent, and um, Melisandre, despite the actress being, I think she's Dutch, her accent doesn't appear that foreign. Like it's very Americanized, so. Um, and of course, we say foreign accent, like like the British accents and the American accents that appear, like we never say anything about them, but like anybody else's accents, we're like, oh, those are foreign. So I understand that's like silly, but I don't know. I think it was something about that. Like Carmine, I was just saying to Carmine that she almost seemed like she was speaking West African French or Haitian French or something. Um, Uh, I saw a picture before episode 1 of Damon pulling the egg out of a steaming pile of black goo. Did they cut it out? Not kidding. Will we get another? It's true that I really thought because so they changed the Dragonstone scene quite a bit from what we know from Fire and Blood. So in Fire and Blood, Damon simply goes to Dragonstone and is living there for 6 months. There's no like bringing an army and claiming it for yourself kind of thing. Hello, Trey. How are you doing?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. How's it going?
Oh, awesome, awesome. I'm doing
Oh,
great. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. How did you like the episode?
Oh, I texted Carmine after I finished it, and I think I liked it more than the first one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Because it's certainly people will certainly claim it's slower, but it doesn't have any of the shock moments of the first one that might turn some people off.
right.
It
Yeah,
was
like I
more of
like
character
the
building.
I like the character building stuff. I really like the scheming and political kind of stuff, and then like I've found that like King Viserys is like becoming like my favorite character in the show because like I don't know I feel like the actor does like a really good job of like giving sympathy for him, and you kind of get his like struggle and stuff.
So you're really into dudes that murder their wives and then sleep with teenage
No, no,
girls.
no, no. No, no, that's pretty bad. That's pretty. I'm just saying that like they took like this nobody character that nobody cared about, and they made him like intriguing, where like you want him to have a good relationship with his daughter and that kind
Yeah,
of stuff, I guess.
it is true that Viserys is a nobody character in Fire and Blood. Like he has no personality. Where he's just maybe a stand-in for Robert, but he's got 5 lines. We don't know we just know him as like doing whatever the small council wants him to do, so it doesn't even matter. Because
Right.
the main characters is Daemon and Rhaenyra. Yeah. Um, so what did you think? What did you think? I want to talk about this this super chat situation with Damon's egg. You remember from the previews, like Damon seemed to be like sneaking in the caves and like finding a dragon egg and like maybe meeting Cannibal. Remember? Do you remember all that from the
Yeah.
like the trailers?
I thought we were gonna see because there's one like scene in particular where like it's like a shot and like he's in a cave and then it lights up and you see his like silhouette with like fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get that this episode. Like
Yeah,
there was gonna be
I did
another
too. I
egg or
thought he
something.
was going to be stealing the egg in order to like give to Massaria. Instead, it's and this is interesting because it's getting into some theory crafting I've done about what hatches a dragon egg. So they specifically made it um Balon, younger Balon's egg, the dead baby's egg, not Viserys' dad's egg. Though Viserys' dad's egg never hatched either. So like when they first said Balon, I was like, whoa, 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 which egg? Because like technically there would be two Balon eggs. Um, but they got they meant the baby's egg, and that struck me because um, obviously like in Fire and Blood and in this Targaryen kind of period, they all talk about cradle eggs and like putting an egg in a cradle with a baby to hatch it. But we know for a
Mm.
fact that that's not essential to hatch a dragon because we know from Daenerys that there was no baby cradle or anything like that. That with Daenerys, it seemed to be um, she had a miscarriage or stillbirth, um, and and then the eggs hatched. So whatever is hatching the egg, whether it be pregnancy or an actual dead baby or a miscarriage,
Right.
like one of those things actually has to be the thing that hatches the egg. And so I thought it was interesting because if Emma Aaron is dying and Balon is dying, and the pregnancy and things like that around that egg, that could be the thing that quickens the egg. Um, Uh,
Yeah, I could see that.
yeah,
Does that egg hatch later? That particular egg?
we have no idea.
Hmm.
In Fire and Blood, none of the none of the eggs, like we don't really know where the dragons come from or when they're hatched or who. Um, and so I keep meaning to do a series about the hatching of eggs because uh, I think there is definitely something about um, miscarriages or something that influences stuff because we don't really have an explanation on why on where the eggs come from, who gets them, why, and what causes them to hatch.
Hmm.
They just kind of the dragons just kind of appear. And so you can kind of reverse engineer some stuff to say, okay, this is kind of interesting and weird. Like some people are like, well, maybe there's something to do with the volcanic action on Dragonstone. And I'm like, well, the problem is that sea smoke, like Lanor's egg, like definitely hatches. And but it's so something's going on Driftmark. But at the same time, his older sister Lena's egg does not hatch because she claims Vagar. So maybe Lena's egg actually hatched because because Rhaenys was pregnant with Laenor, and actually Laenor is riding Lena's dragon. I'm like doing all of these different things. Like, well, what could cause it? But I do think that I think pregnancy, something to do with pregnancy, is definitely essential for a dragon's egg to hatch, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Um, we just have too many points on the
Yeah, it's hard to isolate all the variables. Is the
yeah.
problem? Is like there's like such a small sample size, and then there's all these stuff that you got to keep track of. I don't even know if George knows.
Yeah, that's the thing is he just writing stuff and then he's going to figure it out later. But I was expecting that. So maybe Damon will now that that egg is gone, maybe Damon in the next episode will steal another egg, but in the next episode it looks like he's already in the Stepstones. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
Fighting Mr. Mistopheles.
Dragon Demands is like, do I have to donate to be in top chat status? um, I think Dragon Demands knows that I look at his stuff. Okay. Um, why does Alicent keep talking about her mother dying when she's across the narrow sea running a pleasure house? Um, da, 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 da. I think so. I think this is a joke about this is a joke about Alicent, not Alicent, obviously. Alicent. Some people think so. If you take my like Dragon X like theory, my Dragon X theory is pretty fucking awesome, except it has one major weakness, and the major weakness is that Alicent Hightower's children, um, all end up with, well, not all of them, but many of them end up with dragons. And so it seems that some sort of special gene was at least passed to, um, say like specifically Aegon the Second. Um, if my Dragon X theory is correct, he can't get an X gene from his father, so he would have to get it from his mother to be a dragon rider. And so the only way to get that and to have these hatching dragon eggs is if Alicent it has some sort of like special dragon blood. And so we can go into like why Alicent might have dragon blood, and some of it's just that the Hightowers have old lineage, and there were dragons in Westeros many millennia ago, with the
Hmm.
stories of Urax and Florian and things like that. Um, and that the very few Hightowers, this is again like very few like evidence points, but the few Hightowers we have look Valyrian in some
Right.
way, you know.
Jorah's
Um,
wife or ex-wife,
yeah,
and
but then there's an alternative theory that says, well, maybe Alicent is actually just Sarah Targaryen's daughter, and,
all right.
And you're like, okay, and there's some sort of baby swamp, but because Sarah Targaryen should be still alive, um, causing trouble.
Did she show up in the dance at all? Like I know that two of her sons like show up at the two or three at the Council of 101. But does she
No,
come
she just
back?
kind of quietly disappears from the story and is never talked about
Oh,
again.
wow.
Yeah,
There's
but
like
like,
there's weird lineages like that of like Targaryens that just fade out of history. Like you don't know what happened to those families, so like they could be still knocking around, I guess.
yeah, I mean, it gets to be like Star Wars with Jedi's, right? Like, oh, you found another Jedi. You know? Oh, there's another the Targaryen, like there's this big deal with a Game of Thrones where like Daenerys is the last dragon. Daenerys is the last dragon. That's big, except for Aemon and young Griff and like and Aryan Brightflame's line and any Blackfires and Sarah Targaryen and like it just goes on and on and on.
Blood Raven too.
Blood Raven, yeah, it's just Blood Raven too, yeah. Oh god, yeah, yeah, and Jon Snow,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but Daenerys is the last dragon. And all the dragon seeds on Dragonstone and Driftmark, and fuck, it's like there's fucking so many.
yeah.
Um, was the Maester putting up a front when talking about marriage to the king? A lot of suspicious looks towards Otto during the conversation. I think yes. So this is directly from Fire and Blood, and direct in Fire and Blood, Runketer, because they've eliminated Runketer and they've just merged him with Melos. So like Melos and Runketer are the same, but in the book, Runketer is the one that brings forward Lena Valarian as an option, and they do this in the show too. It's very clear that Lena Valarian's 12 years old and Viserys likes to fuck, and like his last wife Emma Arryn he married at 11 and bedded at 12. That's from Fire and Blood. He's definitely bedding um, uh, Emma Arryn when she's 12, and she dies because of complications from going into childbirth and trying to deal with it at too young of an age. So, Viserys in the book, they've eliminated all this from the show because I guess they want to make Viserys more likable. But Viserys in the book was definitely like doing some shady crap in order to maintain his like kingship against Rhaenys. And so one of them was like marrying Emma Arryn super young and trying to get an heir out as quick as he could, trying to get a baby out as quick as he could, which eventually like, contributes to her death. And so I think after that experience, and that's the big thing, is like after that experience of betting someone that was too young and forcing a 12-year-old girl into all of these bad situations, he didn't want to do it again. And plus he's probably already having sex with Alicent Hightower. Like he's probably like which they the placement of like when the Viserys, I mean, it's not for sure that there's an Alicent Viserys affair, but here they've placed the affair possibly right before the decision. But it very well may be that Viserys was having sex with Alicent before Emma Arryn died in the books. But yeah, I think it's the scheme is you bring up the topic of marriage through Lena, and then like, oh, but not Lena, but marriage is still on the table. Like there's no reason that Viserys needed to get married so quick, but they had it anyway. That's the whole thing is they bring up marriage and then offer somebody he clearly wouldn't want to get married to, and then they do the bait and switch. So I think Melos is definitely in on it, though. Lionel Hightower protested a little too much. Like he was really like, she'll mature. Like it's no big deal, dude. You got to do this.
I was surprised with that. I was like, wow, he really is. Like, I wonder if they're gonna just be different than the books, and he's gonna be on, I guess who else's side?
Yeah. So they make the Strongs very confusing. So Lionel is not much of a character in the books, despite becoming Hand. Like, after Otto Hightower leaves, Lionel becomes Hand, but nothing happens over like the decade, so they don't even talk about him. So Lionel is not much of a character. He's kind of the excuse to bring Harwin and Laris um, into King's Landing. And then Harwin is the one where, Harwin might have been the one to. It's implied that Harwin's the one that turns over Damon and invents the whole Air for a Day thing. But then he becomes Rhaenys's bodyguard, and you're like, well, is he on Team Black or is he on Team Green? Did he
Yeah.
switch, or is he purposely like a spy over on Team Black? And then Laurie Strong is just fucking bonkers, but um, yeah, he's the master of whispers, and like he's probably the one that brought the information in. Well, he's a confessor, meaning he tortures people for information underneath the master of whispers, and then he becomes master of whispers, and so he probably brought in the information from Air for a Day, and then gets promoted, and who knows what else. We'll see if they make him fucking blood and cheese or cheese or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm interested if they're gonna go with like the crazy stuff where like he fakes his limp and all that, where he's in
yeah,
for
I
the
would love
long
that.
con. Like,
I would love that. Though a lot of people are like, Preston, you're crazy. Like, it's one thing for like Varys um, to fake being a eunuch because no one knows Varys, but like Lionel Strong, like, shouldn't he be walking around as like a highborn like lordling at or son of a lord at Harrenhal? I'm like, okay, that's all a very good point. I don't know. So I don't know how he's gonna pull it off, but we're definitely supposed to think about it. Because why would you have his leg disappear?
yeah,
Um, yeah. Why did he this one redone because of the Alyssa? Why does Allison keep talking about her dying mother?
I like his icon too, Maynard Plum. That's good. That's
That
pretty
is
good. He's
really
got a little
funny.
mustache on.
that's that's a fucking brilliant. Like that actually, his disguise was just like the dumbest. Like everyone's like, "Oh, Maynard Plum." I'm clearly not Daemon Targaryen. Daemon Blackfire. That might be the best. That might be the best Avatar I've seen in a long time. um. Oh, the intro. It should have been a new song. What did you think of the intro?
I was okay. I don't know. It was okay. Like I was surprised that they just reused the old song. Um,
I thought they would have him like because create some new composition and something.
yeah, yeah. It felt kind of not lazy, but not taking risks. I guess like they felt like they couldn't top that song, so like just let's just do it again. Uh,
Yeah, I guess it with like no new like there's no new song and no new information, and you're kind
mm,
of flowing around these rivers of blood that kind of all look the same. So
right.
it wasn't it was fine for one viewing, but and I like I think thematically it's a very interesting concept. Like, okay, you're taking like old Valyria and you're doing rivers of blood into family trees. Like, I think that's all very clever, talking about bloodlines flowing and joining and all of that. Like, I think that's like conceptually that's a really great idea. I just think in execution it doesn't really look that great.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think about like the Game of Thrones one where it's like a map and it shows more each time, and it kind of gets you to keep on watching it for new locations and stuff. I don't know how they're gonna change this intro to be more, I guess, interesting visually.
Mm-mm, yeah, yeah. Maybe there'll be enough complaints, and season two will be something different. um, did Otto Hightower essentially pimp his daughter? Um, by modern standards, we would say that, but uh, in this story, like that's the function of daughters. Like the
Yeah,
function of daughters in a feudalistic society is actually I would say the function of children. It's not just even like daughters; it's sons too. But like the the function of children and marriage is our family alliances. So like that's what you're doing. You're trying to secure something. Gotta remember that like historically the concept the concept of romantic love, like being what couples should do is a fairly young concept. Like, I mean, maybe some cavemen were doing it, but a lot of caveman procreation has happened, done through rape and force, but and protection and things like that. Um, though I'll grant that there's probably a bunch of cavemen getting together just because they liked each other and they fell in love. But after that, you're talking like family alliances like come in pretty, once civilization comes around, like it just becomes like, well, how am I going to keep my wealth in my family, and who am I going to team up with in order to survive? Um, and and then I'm trying to think like when romantic love even comes around. Like, yeah, people knew about, like, it's not like people didn't have romantic feelings, but like for marriage, romantic, like marriage based on romantic love, I don't know. What do you think about
Reading
this,
like
Trey? Because
ancient.
like obviously Shakespeare like has romantic love being part of his stories and stuff, but it just doesn't seem like.
Yeah, it's a very recent thing. Like if you read like ancient historians, like there's one that really stuck out to me recently, like in I think Herodotus, and it
Hmm.
talks about like how like like this one king like actually loved his wife and found her like attractive, and like they're like that's crazy, that never happens. Like what a weird idea. And then like you get, and it also goes on to say that like that kind of like being attractive to like your partner is like reserved for like prostitutes and like boys and stuff. Like actually finding your wife attractive is like very rare because it's all political, I guess.
They hint at this in Ice and Fire a bit. In the Sworn Sword, they mention that bastards by nature are evil because they're born of passion. If you actually like are sexually attracted to your wife, and you have like passionate actual sex with her and produce a child, then they're going to be a passionate like baby, and not fit in. While if you have like dignified, like dignified, boring, rational sex, you're gonna have a dignified, rational child. so um so yeah, I mean, Otto's taking a big risk, but and this is definitely a an idea I put forward in overanalyzing House of the Dragon, was like it's a risk, just the same with like Jane Westerling was a risk. But I think once these honor bound people are don't want to ruin somebody's life, and so from reading between the lines of the episode, like Viserys had sex with Alicent, felt bad that he took her maidenhead, and felt like he needed to marry her. Plus, he
Mm,
seemed to like her too. So um,
yeah.
it's funny. It's funny because like as it's presented, it seems very corrupt because of the father's influence, but in a sense, it's closer to a modern marriage than all the rest of the marriages, right? Like, like I don't know if Alicent has feelings for Viserys, but Viserys seems to have feelings for Alicent. So
Mm, yeah. They have a nice conversation about like history and stuff. Like
she
they have
gives him
their
that
weekly
Tyranid. She
meetings.
gives she gives she gives him the Warhammer piece.
He loved that Warhammer. He looked at it like several times. There were
Oh,
multiple scenes.
this is very thoughtful. Like, all she did was walk down the hall to the stonemason. The same thing you fucking did. Like, it's
Would have
like
been
get.
something if she got him a new one, like a completely new character. I don't know, something like that.
It's
Like
like me getting a
Balerion, if she
glass of
makes one
water for my
Balerion.
wife. Like, yeah, she can go down the hall and get the glass of water, but I went down the hall and got the glass of water. Like, she's not that she's not that thankful to me for that glass of water. But it's a weird thing about like gifts from extremely wealthy people to other extremely wealthy people. that are not like thoughtful. I mean, I guess this one, I guess it's more about the thought. Like, oh, I know you really like these, you know, your tabletops, your tabletop gaming, and so that piece got broken. So let's I'm gonna get you a new one. You know, the thought that
Hmm.
counts. It was fine. Yeah, good. Um, who has the best acting on the show so far? um, I think Viserys actor Patty I keep wanting to call him Constantine because that's what I think he's very good. Matt Smith is excellent. I think they're all really good.
Hmm.
But
The auto actor.
the auto actor, um, I liked Lionel Strong's performance. My favorite scene of the episode was probably Rhaenys Rhaenyra, and I think Rhaenys really shined in that episode more than just being fucking Queen of Thorns Part Two. Like, like first episode they were just like, what do we do with her? She's Queen of Thorns Part Two, and here she had a really great scene with Rhaenyra. I really liked it.
Yeah.
What what do you think, Trey? You think it was Massaria?
Who? Oh, Miss. Oh, that accent. Oh my god. It was like stereotype, like French, like something I'd seen in like Looney Tunes cartoon.
It was like my Dario Naharis accent.
Yeah, yeah, it was. That's exactly what it reminded me of. Oui, oui.
Oui, oui.
That
I am an
is.
American doing a French accent. Like,
I don't know what they were going for there. She was not good.
I mean, she is a really good actor. It's just when I think the accent was a bad choice. It's sort of like when people were talking about in the later seasons of Game of Thrones how uh, uh, the Daenerys actress, like how her acting kind of went downhill, and I was like, it's just from the choice of like having her be stoic all the time. Um,
Hmm.
the it it she she can act. She's very good. But it's like her choosing to be stoic. It's like making these acting choices, or maybe it's the director that who knows who made these choices, and then committing to something that's like just doesn't fit. You know, mm. Looney Tunes cartoon.
Because I guess I didn't notice in previous episode because she had like two scenes or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Did you see the maggots? Oh, I saw the maggots. There were some good maggots.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if those were CG or if those were
They looked
practical.
real, but they were
That's
wiggling
pretty
quite a
cool.
bit. Um,
Yeah.
oh, oh,
Are they are
God.
by the way, did they imply that Rain oh gosh, I'm trying to remember everybody's names. Rhaenyra did not is has never prayed to the faith of the seven before?
That was a weird scene, right?
Yeah.
That was one of my that was
I
one of
was like,
my
wow.
least favorite sines. That was just like, why are we having this scene? What is this? I mean, I guess
Yeah.
they were trying to push that like the high towers are really connected to the faith of the seven with Old Town and all, um,
Hmm.
which which is considering you haven't even introduced like a septon is an interesting like choice. Like because if you're going to do an Old Town conspiracy, you'd think that and you want a septon conspiracy part of it because the Old Town, like the Old Town conspiracy, like you can have it just be maesters, but it's kind of important for the killing of the dragons that a bunch of religious zealots go into the dragon pit and like kill the dragons.
Right.
Um, and so that's why I sort of say like, well, maybe the septons were in on it too. But they haven't introduced any septons to the story. Septon Eustace isn't even part of the story, so um, we shall see.
Hmm.
Um, will she actually get pregnant, Massaria? That's interesting because they've changed the story, right? So reading the book, we all assumed that Massaria was actually pregnant and then miscarried on the ship back to Lice, but now we find out that Damon was just lying and that she wasn't pregnant at all. It's quite a change. Quite a
Yeah.
change. which I'm cool with. I think it's an interesting twist. And then he can just lie and tell people that she miscarried, and everyone's gonna feel bad. Um, so good on
It's
them.
the Rogue Prince, I guess.
The Rogue Prince. Yeah, they really upped the tension on Dragonstone because he doesn't like declare himself like the true heir or like have an army on Dragonstone. He just kind of goes there. So they've really like pushed up the war aspect of it all.
Oh,
Um,
I know this is a little off topic, but I couldn't. The one thing that kind of made me cringe this episode was Corliss's reaction to his daughter getting passed over, or not
mm,
passed over, chosen different. Like the fact that he's like angrily stands up and like storms out of the room and stuff. I was like, oh, he would be smarter than that. Like
yeah,
he could be angry,
yeah.
but like,
So the problem is that they so in the book Corlys has become furious and angry many years earlier. So he quits the small council way back when Balon, not no, way back when Rhaenys is first passed over in 92. So Rhaenys is
mm,
passed over twice. She's passed over when her father dies in 92, and then she passed over at the Council of 101. And so Corlys gets angry and leaves the small council in 92, but they wanted to and is on Driftmark with Rhaenys the whole time, but they wanted to introduce Rhaenys and Corlys earlier here so that we could get to know them so there wasn't that split. So now they're
mm.
like, well, now we need to have the split and have him go off to war. Well, I guess this is a good time to do it. Um, so they just that's why they had him storm off. It's because they're
Okay.
trying to readjust to the book. That was a weird scene to me. Like no one noticed that like Allison's just standing there. Like okay,
Right. Why is she in there?
why is she in there? Like she's clearly in there so you could have the one scene of Rhaenyra like looking to Allison like, oh my gosh, shock. But I'd be like, we're having a small council meeting. What the fuck are you doing in here?
Never been in here before. Like what?
Like what? This is bring your daughter to work day? What the fuck?
That was dumb.
I
Yeah, I'm
think
looking at it. She's standing next to her dad. Like, yeah, why is she here?
why are you here? Like like Corlys didn't even bring his own daughter. Like who they all thought they were gonna choose. Oh gosh. They did it for the one scene. They did it for the look.
Right.
Um but
Oh
yeah, there
man.
was no reason that she'd be there. It was so awkward and weird.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a great job of giving the king his own personality and still being easily manipulated by the small council. I do. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the big strengths of the show is how they've integrated Viserys in and how it's it'd be one thing if he were just a pushover, like an obvious pushover, but he's a pushover, but it's like it's done so subtly that he thinks he's making his own decisions. Like he thinks he's in control, um, when in fact they're walking all over him, which
Right.
which is great. It's really quite subtle. It's beautifully done. Um, Daemon Targaryen told us in the first freaking episode, like, dude, you're weak, and he is weak, but he's not obviously weak. You need to like read between the lines and be like, oh, right, like that was you were played. You were played. I like the episode because there were noticeable George R. R. Martin
Oh my
diction, like
god.
comely mummers farce mine own. Condell's clearly appeasing readers. He is, but it adds something. It adds something to it.
Was it Lickspittle like last episode?
Lickspittle, yeah.
Lickspittle. And you're like, what the fuck?
Oh my gosh. So uh the fan fiction, it's amazing, like going through the chapters and like going word by word and being like, okay, is this a word that George R. R. Martin uses? Is this a
Hmm.
word? Does he use it in a noun form? Does he use it in a verb form? It's very, very difficult. he's very consistent.
Yeah.
Um, like I use a phrase in the Elaine chapter that's going to come out pretty soon. I'm going to say this week, but I don't know. But where I say, like, originally I was like, oh, a miracle appeared in the Sept's coffers. I used this line, but it's like, well, we would say a miracle appeared like in our language today, but does George R. R. Martin ever say that a miracle appears? Like, it's always somebody worked a miracle. And you're like, oh God, like, how do I rephrasing that sentence? A miracle was worked in the Sept's coffers, like, because he just doesn't use a miracle appeared.
Mhm.
And so when you go between Ice and Fire and the way George writes there and The World of Ice and Fire, which is not written by him, written by Elio and Linda, you'll see just massive differences. Like the words they use. Like sometimes we'll do a search and like only World of Ice and Fire stuff will come up and you're like, yep, okay. So like not that much care was made to use George R. R. Martin's speech in that. Interestingly enough, but
Mm.
I mean, when I read the World of Ice and Fire, I was like, oh, you know, this sounds all right. This sounds like sufficiently archaic, but no, it's not. It's not really in George R. R. Martin's style.
Mm. I never really thought about that. That's tough. You had to get
Oh,
the right diction.
it's so hard. It's so much time and so much rewriting
Oh man.
to put things in George R. R. Martin's, like, the way he says it. Like even little things like where in a sentence does George R. R. Martin like use the word however? Like does he use however? Because you can use however very subtly different. Like I can say, oh, however, I went to the store. Like does he start sentences with however? I, however, went to the store. Does he put however after nouns? Or like after doing my laundry, however, I went to the store. Like now you're using however between a prepositional phrase and a sentence. Like, and so George will put a however before a prepositional phrase, like in between a prepositional phrase, but like not often, like maybe once or twice, like at the beginning of sentences. All this little fucking like minute shit. It's like so fucking difficult to like get his style.
I
Which
saw that weird. There's a weird graph like floating around. It's like his usage of jape, joke, and oh what's another one? I don't know. Like another word for joke, I guess, and like how it
yeah, like
changes
jest or
over the course
something.
of the writing. Yeah, jest like joke. Like I think he used joke really early on, and then like has since like it's phased out of his vocabulary in his
There's
world.
definitely a lot of that. There's a lot of like stuff that he used to think was okay and then got rid of it. And then there's a lot of stuff in dance that he uses, and you're like, oh, you got lazy. Like it's very like you never used that word before. It's a fairly modern word, and all of a sudden it appears in dance, and you're like, oh God. All right, George. Like, um, yeah. Have you considered the relationship between dragon births and Targaryen miscarriages? Yeah, I talked about this earlier. I definitely think that at least pregnancy is an essential aspect of hatching dragons, but I do think that it perhaps there has to be either maybe a miscarriage or a stillbirth or something. There has to be some sort of like child death going on or something in order to do it. Just because Danny's Rhaego was maybe a miscarriage, maybe a stillbirth. We're not really sure. There's a lot of ambiguities, and we know that something weird happened there, and we just keep hearing about all these miscarriages and stillbirths in the story, and maybe those are the things that are hatching dragons. But I think I think it's definitely something like that, like a stillbirth, a miscarriage, maybe either or. Something seems to be going on, or maybe I mean it might be as simple as just the birth. Like there has to be a birthing process. The woman has to secrete some sort of hormones or something. Maybe
Hmm.
placentas are really the thing that hatch dragons. It's all about fucking placentas. um, oh, thank you, Ash. Um, Masaria, a whore being portrayed seemingly terribly by Sonia Mizuno, is parallel to Shay, another whore being portrayed terribly by Sybil Kikili. George does it again with the parallels. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, so I mean, the Shay actor was, of course, originally a porn star. Uh, and yeah, there were definitely some scenes where I was frustrated with her, but at the same time, like, I somehow still like the Tyrion Shay book relationship a little more than the Tyrion Shay. I mean, Tyrion Shay show relationship a little more than the Tyrion Shay book relationship. But I don't know. I don't know too many people that are super in love with the Tyrion Shay book story. It just seemed like a lot of
Hmm.
like time killed in Clash of Kings. You're like, oh my god, like, do I need to be hearing about Tyrion like having this woman like grab Tyrion's penis and like, you know, like him going down on her and shit? Like, do I need these scenes in a Clash of Kings? Do I need like her talking about how great it is when he spews semen all over her freckles of her breasts? Like, it's just, it goes on and on and on.
Oh, George. George.
Just yeah.
George George likes that actress too. Like
He
he
loves her.
didn't he
Yeah, yeah.
take her around his house or something and showed him his little figurines like Viserys?
He did. He had a really interesting conversation with her. And you know what I did like about his conversation with her, and if you get a chance, like, you should all watch it, is that she's not really very starstruck by him. She's just hanging out like you're a regular person, um, which might be because, like, you know, she just is is she's from Germany, and you know, maybe there's not the same sort of star power. I Years ago when I was teaching English in China, there's they wanted to put all the foreigners on TV, like singing songs. So they like called up all the schools, and like we were sent as foreign teachers all to like this like auditorium to like for a week to like learn songs and then perform on Chinese TV. It was ridiculous. so um but I remember when I was doing the experience, um I met some random actor, and like when I met him, like all the Chinese people around me, like uh were just shivering because they're like, oh my gosh, because it was, and I had no idea who he was, and it was just like, oh yeah, nice to meet you, you know. Like, he was nobody to me. Like, he's like one of the biggest movie stars in China. Well, I don't fucking know who you are, you know. Like, I totally don't. So she kind of has that, like she's nice, you know, but it's kind of it's kind of funny to be just hanging out with George R. R. Martin like he's an actual like person. And maybe that's why he liked
Mm.
her, is that she treated him like a person. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, George, you know.
And like trying to get information out of him and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like what we would do, you know. Favorite scene was favorite scene was the king and his daughter. I wanted them to just sit down and talk all episode. I was happy when it happened. Maybe hold off. Yeah, you know, I think it's a nice addition. We kind of know that Viserys truly 100% meant for Rhaenyra to be his heir, and he was fully invested in that. And he really thought that like Rhaenyra's children, like specifically Jace, would be king one day. And um, you know, he's very committed to that. I mean, so he loves his daughter, and you know, wants a good relationship with her, and wants her to rule in his stead, and things like that. Wants her to succeed. You know, I thought they did an okay job with considering that they were taking this huge transition of like, we're going to transition this little girl to a political figure and we have got one episode. So, like, um, I think they did an okay job doing that. Um, so like her standing up to Damon and stuff like that. So I thought it was all right.
Mm.
Um, though in the inside the episode afterwards, they make a big deal about her choice of Kristen Cole and how it showed her like mature mindset in making such a good choice. Um,
I
however,
interpreted the opposite.
mm, I did too. Actually, I mean, her
Yeah,
like in the inside the episode, they were like saying that, but I was saying, yeah, I interpreted the opposite.
that it was
Um,
her kind of being like getting eye candy over the best choice.
oh, I was
Because
thinking of it more in the sense of you're not thinking things through. Like the if you run a business and people are like, "Oh, who should I get to do a job? I should get the person who does the job the best." That's a very naive way of looking at employment.
mm,
Um, which is I understand that there's these shows like House out there that's like, "Oh, you can be a complete asshole." Um, but as long as you're the best doctor, they'll do whatever, they'll just accept it. And it's like, no, like in a working environment, you need to be able to get along with everybody else. You need to be not reckless. You need to like have good loyalties. Like you can't just be like, oh, well that guy has battle experience and therefore I'm going to choose him. Like he might be a fucking psychotic. Like interview him. Like
yeah, yeah. Because last thing she saw, he used the flail on Damon and was kind of dirty in a tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, let's choose the guy that sucker flailed my uncle. Like,
That's what I kind of got, that like she liked him because he was like a rebel and like he's like handsome, I guess. I think that's why.
yeah,
And then also she kind of hated Otto. Like she's like, yeah, screw you, Otto. I'm gonna not
got to do
listen to
the
you.
opposite. Yeah, no, but apparently in the inside of the episode is the exact opposite that she was.
Wow. See, I didn't see it, so that this is new. That's weird. That's weird when you see that behind the scenes stuff and like they have a completely different opposite interpretation than you. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you
I mean,
talking
it's one
about?
of the beautiful things about like fiction in general is that we can interpret it many ways, right? Um,
Hmm.
but it's these funny things like there's so many people that like the book Lolita, which is supposed to be, most people read the book Lolita and you're like, oh, this is about like an insane dude like destroying a little girl and being like caught up and obsessed with like a time when he was like 13 years old and like there's all these things written and then they asked the author, like he's like, nah, I didn't really think about that, I was just trying to like get a rise out of people. And you're like, oh,
What?
yeah.
He said that? Damn.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He was like,
Wow.
I wasn't thinking about that interpretation. I was just trying to get a rise out of people, and I wrote this story. Like, it's so
All right.
weird, right? Like, because there's actually like characters in the story that are like, yeah, this girl has been just like destroyed by you, and like, like it's like, did he just forget that he wrote that? Like. The significance of the egg being Dreamfire. Who is the father, Vermithor during the quarrel or Silverwing? This was this is a very interesting scene because there was a lot of things going on with that egg, right? So the fact that this all gets into like it's maybe it's just so much confirmation bias on my part where I'm just like, I'm totally right about everything. So, Dreamfire Reina was very unfairly passed over as well. She was the object of everyone's affection and lust before, by Maegor, by Aegon the Uncrowned. Like everybody wanted to marry Queen Dreamfire Rhaenys, and maybe it was Dreamfire Reina, and maybe it was because she was the eldest child of Aenys and the true heir to the Iron Throne, or maybe it was the fact that like she had a very special link to dragons, and that her dragon Dreamfire was laying eggs, and so it the fact that at least in the show, Dreamfire is an egg layer, is a big thing. Now, we kind of assumed that Dreamfire was an egg layer just because they call her a she dragon,
Mm.
and a bunch of different dragons are called she dragons, and you're like, well, why would you think that they're she dragons? Are they do the male dragons have like dragon dongs, and like the female dragons have dragon vaginas? Like, how do you know that they're male and female? I would figure that the only way to decide if they're female is if they start laying eggs.
I think
And so
that's right. I think they mentioned that specifically that like they only identify it as a she dragon if it lays eggs.
yeah, so the fact that like that Dreamfire Reina has a dragon that's laying eggs, I could totally see why everyone would want to, like, any conspiracy going, people would want to try to keep her off the throne, and put on Jaehaerys and Alysanne, who we don't. I forget if Silverwing called. Silverwing might be called a she dragon as well, but um, and then there's something about like dragons, like the only she dragons that lay eggs are well, most of the she dragons are ridden by women, with the exception of Tessarion, which is ridden by a man, and Tessarion is called a she dragon. So I was like, maybe you need a female dragon rider to make egg hatching happen, but then there's Tessarion, so I don't know.
Mm.
But I think it is significant that like the true lineage of like who's most special is Dreamfire. I mean, is Dreamfire Dreamfire Reina. Fucking everybody's names. Dreamfire Reina. Um, and so I think now father. I don't think they need fathers and mothers. I wouldn't even go that far. But
Yeah, they're weird where they're like what is it? What's the word where the Maester Aemon goes on like a weird tangent about how like they can be
yeah,
both
they can
sexes
change
and
their sex. Like hermaphrodite is not the right word, but like they can, like the thing that those fish can do, where they can change
yeah.
sex.
Yeah, like what clownfish can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is
So
interesting. And then like or newts. I think they mentioned newts or something too.
yeah, yeah. Newts. Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's a special word for it. But I think they were throwing those things out there just to like, I mean, one, be fan service, but two, like hedge their bets with all of the magic and fan lore. I do wonder if at least one person has seen the genetics of dragons in war in the writers' room.
Well, they did really reveal a fair amount of stuff about like Valyria with his little model. Like there's what is it? He gave a special name for it. It's like this forge for like the um wizards or something. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. No, what's funny is yeah, George recently did an interview where he started talking about the blood mages and everything like that, and the fact that it's in the next episode. Maybe it's like, maybe George felt like he could be open about it, because it was
mm,
about to be revealed in the show. Um
interesting. Well, also in Viserys is aware what a volcano is, which I don't know if that's the case in the main series. If they know Dragonstone is a volcano.
yeah, they just kind of say it was underground lava kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um yeah. That's a small difference. Yeah. But in a way you can make whatever um, lore you want about Valyria, because it doesn't matter. It's like
right.
it gets blown up, so
It's gone. It's never coming up.
right, and probably not going to write any more books about it. So it's just it could do anything. Like everybody in Valyria had the middle name Skip. Well, why not? It's
What happened to that spin-off series that they're gonna do? And like, they got like the writer for like a history novel, I think, for it and stuff.
oh
Never
right.
materialized.
I mean, you're right that they could later do some sort of weird animated thing, but yeah, I think one of the pitches. I don't know if it was War of the Five Pitches, like uh,
Fake thing that never happened.
well, Dragon Demand's got him like was like, I came up with that term because so the War of the Five Pitches turned out that like Dragon Demands edited one of the Game of Thrones like wikis, and he put in
Mhm.
like one heading like War of the Five Pitches as like a history, and they clearly like read his wiki entry and like took it from that. So that's where it came from. Whereas like the so-called fan, it's like nobody does it. Well, Dragon Demands did, you know, in his wiki thing. So, um, was that grayscale they were treating? It's very difficult not to look at that and think of the grayscale. I don't think it's supposed to be, but I
Is it the
wonder.
crab feeder guy?
No, I think they were talking about Viserys's finger
Oh,
and like the
interesting.
thing on his back. Like obviously, like it looks like grayscale because it at least show grayscale because it's like just a pussy wound and stuff and um, but it'd be funny if like it they retcon everything that the creation of grayscale is actually Viserys getting cut on the throne.
He started it all. He's the Stone King or whatever it's called. His name was.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the guy at the crab feeder looks like he has grayscale at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's true too. They all look fucking. They all look
He's got
messy.
his
They all look
he's got his
messy.
cat mask on.
Oh yeah, Mr. Mistopheles. Yeah.
they're they're really like hyping him up too. Like they're
Oh
like
my
he
gosh.
really feeds those crabs. Like he has thousands of them.
Those are happy crabs.
I like the idea that like he originally was just like a guy that like drowned people. He just waited for the tide to come, and no, it's like he literally feeds hordes of
He keeps
crabs.
them alive. He like puts them on IVs, makes sure they're conscious. um, this is regarding Rhaenyra's religion. That Cyrax was
Mm,
named after a Valyrian god. Maybe she's more inclined to believe in the ancient religion. Perhaps, though Alysanne and Jaehaerys were specifically very religious, like very faith of the
mm.
seven. So how you get from and sending several children like at least two daughters right to the faith and um so it's you'd think that they'd raise their children in the faith of the seven and they would raise their children in the faith of the seven, but who knows.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I like assumed like culturally they would raise them at least to know the seven and like at least pretend that they believed it and stuff. But the fact that she has very such little practice is kind of interesting.
Yeah, to not know how to pray, you know
Yeah.
um when there's not really very much to it.
No, because we don't know too much about the Valyrian religion. Like we know that they have like they're polytheistic and they have many gods, but like we get basically no information on it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. It's completely left open on what it was. Um, it does remind me. Did I ever tell you the story of once when I was living in Jordan? This Jordanian Muslim asked me. They're like, "Oh, how do you pray?" And like, because the in Islam, like there's a lot of very detailed methods on like how to perform your prayer at call to prayer, like how many rakats you're going to do, and when you're going to bow and when you're going to kneel and things like this, and you taking your head and going to each side and saying to the angels on your shoulders and things like this. And they said,
mm,
like, how do you pray in Christianity? You do like this symbol, right? And I was like, well, that's not really the prayer. That's like just a Catholic like prep thing. And I'm like, prayer is pretty easy in Christianity. You just kind of sit quietly and talk to God. Like there's not much, like there's no set like ritual to it. And I remember his like eyes like kind of widen and go, "You talk to God." I was like, And I remember that look like really. And I realized that like the concept of what prayer was just fundamentally different. Like one
Mhm.
was worship and paying reverence to something, and the other was like telepathically trying to speak to another being, you know?
Mhm.
Which, so, but yeah, you'd think that growing up in the faith of the seven, growing up, at court, you'd at least like know about that shit. Like, like
Yeah.
I'm an atheist, and it's like I wouldn't be that lost if somebody like, um, yeah. So Damon took the gold cloaks with him to Dragonstone, that fishing village. They must be so crime free.
If it's Dragonstone on the show, there's gonna be nobody living there. There's not a
It's
village.
true. You just Dragonstone in the show. You just walk in, like the idea that you could take gold cloaks. Like now see, I didn't even think about this, but that's kind of ridiculous. Like first off, like did all 2,000, because they said his army was 2,000 strong. So
Mm.
let's say he took all 2,000 gold cloaks with him. Um, do they use the same kind of weapons? Like, I wouldn't think that a gold cloak walking around the city would. I mean, how are you taking the castle? Like a bunch of like 2,000 guys with swords. You need like siege engines and like ladders and shit, right? To like take a
Mm.
castle. You can't just like take a castle with a bunch of dudes and swords.
And Dragonstone, I think, because Loris tries to siege Dragonstone, it's actually really, really tough. It's like a really
Yeah.
stubborn. Yeah.
I suppose if he shows up with this dragon and he's like, guys, I'm gonna fucking kill you unless you open the doors. Like everybody might be like, fine, okay, okay,
I
don't
guess
burn
he's the
us.
dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that might be it. But yeah. So Dragonstone's crime free, but King's Landing must have like fallen into chaos.
Just as soon as they left.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't all the gold cloaks. Maybe it was like he took 200 and left 1,800 behind or something. But
Mm.
um, it's pretty bold. It's pretty bold um, shifting of the book material. I know it's been years, but cheers for the dragon genetics theory. Brilliant contribution to the fandom. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, there's good videos. These are old too.
Old, yeah. I mean, so many books have come out since then that like I've got to redo. I would have to like redo the because he invented a whole bunch of other characters and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it would still work. Um. Oh, the writing isn't perfect, but good enough to keep my favorite character, Shade of the Lamp, out of the reviews. Shame. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any like lamp shading of something that's just ridiculous. Nothing. Somebody mentioned that there was something from the first episode, but I've forgotten what it was, so it's probably not that important. But yeah. Somebody says Millie Alcock is a much better actor than Amelia Clark. Yeah, it's I think they're both fine. I think Amelia Clark like I say like chose certain ways to portray Daenerys that maybe didn't work. But you see Amelia Clark in other stuff and she's fucking great. So I don't know.
Ever see her in Last Christmas?
I did see her in Last Christmas.
Oh my gosh! I found somebody you watched I watched it in the theater.
Really? Wasn't it during
Yeah,
COVID?
yeah. It was during COVID. Me and like my roommate, like for some we were like we went to I think to see the Joker or something, but it was all sold out. We're like, well, we're here. Let's see Last Christmas. There's Amelia Clark's in it because we watched Game of Thrones.
Wow. Um, now we're gonna talk about Last Christmas. The so Last Christmas, considering it got such really bad reviews, and my expectations were really low, And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. You know?
Yeah. I love how the movie opens with because we watched it just to make fun of it, and like the
Yeah.
movie opens with like a title credit thing that goes Yugoslavia 1999 or something like that, and we like died in the movie because we were the only ones there, and we just died because we just didn't expect it. We're like, what the fuck?
Right. There is this really weird, like, they make her character this is she Serbian or Albanian? I forget like which or
Something like
she
that.
might even be Bosnian. I don't know, but she's like randomly one of the Yugoslavian nationalities, and it has no impact on the plot. Like it's like a it's
Her
like
mom. There's one scene where her mom's complaining about Trump, even though they're British. Like,
yeah, and they right. She goes to her family and they explore like the fact like her immigrant roots and everything, but it doesn't have anything to do with the plot, which is literally like the plot is the song, which is also like it's so on the nose, um but as I thought it was fine. I thought her chemistry with the guy from Crazy Rich Asians was really good. And you
yeah,
know, I thought it was a fine little romantic comedy. It is what it is. You know, your
I think
expectations
so.
are low. Like, you know, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Sorry, totally random.
Yeah, no. I know. You guys came for House of the Dragon, you know, but what you're gonna get is Preston Jacobs and Trey the Explainer discussing Last Christmas, okay? That's what you're fucking gonna get. Massario was imitating my Egret accent. Oh, is my Egret accent is a um I've brought this up before, but there's this really incredible movie called Smoke Signals that I really like. Um, and Smoke Signals, I think it might be the first movie to ever be written, directed, and acted in. First major movie to be written, directed, and acted in by American Indians and only American Indians.
Mm.
And it's based on a book, but there's this character of Victor, and he just has the funniest accent, and they make him ridiculous because what's great about the movie is, you know, American cinema and Americans have all these stereotypes about American Indians, and they wanted to show like real American Indian culture. And a real American Indian culture is diverse. Even when you talk about one res, you're going to have all sorts of different characters. And so this one character is there, and he's just like he's just ridiculous, and he's got this accent, you know, and he's just like, oh, Victor, what do you like? They take this cross country road trip, and he's like, you know, he walks onto the bus and he's smiling, goofy, and he's like, dude, you can't just be like smiling all the time. You have to have like a hard, angry look on your face. You got to look like you just killed a buffalo with your bare hands. And he's like, but Victor, our people, they didn't hunt the buffalo. We were fishermen. It's like it's just it's just the most brilliant movie because he tells these stories about like, and you think they're going to be like these ancient tales of Indians, but they're really about like people sitting around eating fry bread at like a get together. Your
What's
mother,
this movie's name?
it's called Smoke Signals.
Smoke
Like,
Signals.
Victor, your mother, she was a magical woman. Once there was a party in which she only made enough fry bread for 50 people, but 100 Indians showed up, and she did not know what to do, and she said, "Everyone, she performed a miracle that night. She said, "Everyone, I only have enough food for 50 Indians, but 100 Indians have come." So she took a piece of fry bread and she raised it above her head and she ripped the fry bread in half. Like, what an incredible miracle. It's a great movie. Great movie. I might
I'll
be
have to check
talking
it
it
out.
up. People are going to watch it. It's like this little funny thing. It's not, you know, mainly about an American Indian who's like father dies and he needs to pick up the ashes. But like, um, thoughts on the dialogue, in my opinion, was very good. I thought the dialogue, consider like this episode, I think its weaknesses was that it was a little slow, especially the first half. But its strengths were the dialogue was really good. It was, I mean, when I think of the scenes that I really liked, like Rhaenys and Rhaenyra, Lionel and Viserys and Rhaenyra. Like I even liked the bridge scene between Rhaenyra and Daemon. Like I loved how Daemon like all of a sudden is like really awkward and doesn't know how to act, and he's like, considering it wasn't even in English, like I thought the dialogue was the best part of this episode. Yeah. I mean, so Trey, like Carmine would be like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what did you give the episode? What would you give the episode overall?
I'd give it a. I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. I think it's better than
Wow,
last.
you
Yeah,
really
yeah.
liked it.
I really liked it. I really liked it.
Okay, okay. I mean, I haven't done my rewatch. I've only watched it once, but um, I do know that like I texted Carmine at the beginning and was like so slow during the first half. So I'll probably knock it down a little bit compared to the first one. And there wasn't like a gut punching like incredible scene, like the birthing scene in the pilot. So I'm gonna be a little more negative and give it a 6 out of 10. Having given the
Hmm.
pilot like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. I'm gonna give it like maybe I give it a 6.5 or something. But you liked it better than the pilot.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think the slower pace was better, and like the less like stupid stuff, like the I don't know, like the shock stuff from like the previous episode that just kind of like pissed me off. I was just like
Mm.
and it kind of distracted from some of the good stuff in it. Specifically like the tourney and stuff and people
Yeah.
fighting, killing
Yeah,
each
I
other.
mean, you're right that there's nothing grossly stupid about this episode like there was with the first one, which had a lot of grossly stupid things. Like when I do my review, it's going to be harder to nitpick and find stuff. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
have Allison standing in the fucking small council chamber, but and like Rhaenyra not knowing about religion, but like the it'll be harder. It'll be harder to nitpick it.
Yeah. I like the noise of what's Damon's dragon's name? Caraxes?
Caraxes, yeah.
Yeah, I liked how it's like I like how they have different noises like roars for the dragons too, like how it's like it was a very high pitched, like very weird screechy stuff. It was kind of cool.
They've done a really good job on creating unique dragons so far. I mean, we've only seen the two right now, but I imagine more are going to come.
Hmm.
uh oh yeah, they mentioned Vagar. so one
Yeah,
of
is
the
that
big
something from the books?
so one of the big goofs in the book that doesn't make any sense is how um uh Lena Targaryen or Lena Valarian gets Vagar. Like, so Vagar was Viserys's dad's mount, and he dies, and nobody claim and then nobody claims Vagar for a while, and then Viserys is chosen at the council, and then for some reason, like, um, Lena claims him, and you're like, well, how
Hmm.
did that happen? Because like politically, the last thing you want would be the fucking Valarian faction to have another dragon, because they already have Sea Smoke, they already have Meleys. The only thing like keeping them from essentially taking the throne is Daemon's Caraxes. Um,
Hmm.
it's a and the Cyrax is a hatchling at this point. Like, at the very, like, it's just not. It's a bad situation. Had the Valarians gotten Vagar, like they should just have invaded and been king. Like Vagar's like so important. Like he's like, you could take on all the other dragons at once, like kind of situation. Um, so why they would like let her into the dragon pit? Why they would be, because she's living on Driftmark. Like why would she even be in King's Landing when there's a semi feud? Why would they let her into the dragon pit when like the dragon pit is specifically guarded? Like because
Hmm.
Sarah Targaryen tries to steal a dragon and they don't let her in. So we don't know like how it happened, and it seems like politically they would never allow her to claim a dragon. And, she couldn't sneak one in. She couldn't just like claim it. So what happened? So the show seems to recognize that. The show seems to recognize that it's really stupid in the book that Lena Valarian has Vagar, and they deal with it by having Vagar be missing.
Mm.
Hello, hello, hello.
All right, I'm done. I had to get that video out in record fucking time. Jesus
Oh my
Christ.
gosh.
Oh wow.
Oh, hey Trey. Hey yo.
Hey Carmine, what's up?
Yo, I got a bone to pick with you.
What's up?
And the audience. How the fuck do you get a cool name like Slay the Explainer? And I get fucking Calzona. What the hell is this?
Calzona.
Calzono's a good name.
Yeah,
Calzona's
it's
pretty
decent.
cool.
It's a result of these motherfuckers in the comment section trying to be comedians, but you get Slay the Explainer? What the fuck is this, yeah?
It's kind of cool. I'm impressed with that one. That's a first.
That's a go. Someone in your Twitter put that in there. That's a good one.
Yeah. Thank you. Somebody's called you Calzono?
Yeah, this fucking guy Carl Karstark. I don't know where the fuck he is, but this comedian over here, Dane Cook over here.
I hear he's been frequenting another stream.
That motherfucker! How dare he? A traitor!
I
Fucking
know.
traitor!
I know.
So I have to ask the audience. I'm gonna be in the comment section here. Has Preston been bitching about the episode?
So Trey and I were discussing this, that it's so Trey liked it better than the first episode. I would say it's weaker than the first episode, but at the same time, it has fewer faults. Like, it doesn't have as many strengths, but it doesn't have as many faults. So it's actually harder to slay it. Like the tourney and like the Damon going around cutting off balls and shit. That's some ridiculous stuff in the first episode. Butts in the screen farting to the audience. Like, we don't have that shit in this episode. Like, it's pretty standard and safe.
Well, I said this in my review. I'm a little harder on the pilot episode because the pilot's episode, they gotta like bait and hook you. The bait is dragons. What's the hook? Well, White Walkers and female heir. Ooh, and oh man, dragons. Ooh, but the pilot episode, everyone has to be harder on it because it has to hook you. Every episode after the fact, it's normal. But episode 1, you have to go hard on it because it needs to hook you in. Episode 1 of Game of Thrones, the pilot, what hooked you in? Well, incest with the queen and her brother, and holy shit, he just tossed this kid out the window. I gotta watch the next episode. We gotta get to that next episode. So,
it's yeah. I mean, with the time skips, they're really not doing the what's going to happen next episode kind of thing.
Did you see episode 3's preview?
I did.
Yo, that time skip. And we finally get confirmation that Rhaenyra is... Huh?
I didn't see it. House of the Dragon preview episode 3.
They only release the preview usually 1 hour after. So you won't see it until the episode's actually over.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted.
Trey got that review copy with me. I made sure.
Yes. Well, that was the thing, is because I couldn't read the subtitles for the
French.
I had my wife come in and translate them. So apparently, Song for, or Dreamfire. It was Songfire. Yeah. But she's reading these things. She's like, this doesn't mean anything. But I was like, yeah.
So. Preston, what did I say to you? And I called you this. It was my morning for me, afternoon for you. What did I say? Preston, did you get that guy to fix those leaks?
Oh, yeah. Do you think they're slow rolling the Maegor concerns? Mentioned a few times, but the uprising underlies much of the tension. It should, especially with regards to the Faith of the Seven, but they haven't really brought in the Faith of the Seven except for the prayer scene. So I think if they're going conspiracy, they're going to do conspiracy, they're going to probably limit it to the Maesters, just because it's maybe too big to throw in the Septons as well. but or at least at this point. Um, so I mean, they've mentioned Magor, but I don't even know if they're going to bring up Magor very much in the future. We'll see. But like in the book material, it's pretty important that Septons are on board with the conspiracy. But it's they can probably write around it in the show. So we'll see. And Amelia Clark had a stroke after season 1.
Oh man.
Well, yeah, that's true. She did. Though, like a lot of people, like Amelia Clark had serious health issues, and then people are like, "Oh, did she, did it affect her acting?" And it's like, I don't know. She was like, I saw her in stuff after her stroke where she's great. I just think like anything with her acting that was poor in the later seasons of the Game of Thrones had to do with like trying to portray Daenerys as stoic. So I don't know if they're all related. Do you have plans on what Salador Saan is up to at the start of The Winds of Winter? Do you want him to go to a specific theater? I have the same question about House Frhagar and Bravosi politics. Thanks. So I personally haven't put much thought into the Davos plot as much as I've put it into other things. Though I've received at least one fan submission on Davos that brings up all of these different issues, and so we'll see when it comes. I don't plan on doing Davos for some time. I plan on kind of focusing on first the kind of South Westeros theater, like everything that happens before the White Raven, and then probably after that, Battle of Fire. So we won't get to Davos for a long, long time, like maybe years. So
This is a question I have for you about Skagos. Do you think like Skagos is going to be as like cannibalistic and scary as they hype it up to be, or is it going to be like actually just completely normal when they actually get there?
I think it's going to be completely normal when they actually get there.
That's the vibe I'm getting. Because they make it out like it's like the worst place in Westeros, like it's terrible, and then it's like,
yeah.
but then
No,
like you
I
also
think
hear that they have trade and stuff.
I think the whole thing is like, they'd be like more civilized there, and they're completely normal people, and like they don't. I mean, the same thing happened with the wildlings, right? Like you get these ideas of the wildlings, and then you go north of the wall. And there's certain things that are different, but the ways that they're different that shock John are like purposely funny in that they're more similar to like our society. There's a few things that are different. Like he's not so into like the rape culture of north of the wall, but like just the concept of like marrying in the family being a really bad idea. Like, of course, like as a modern audience, we're like, yeah, we shouldn't do that. But he's like, well, but these houses have to marry, like. And Egret's like, dude, no, you gotta get a like child from very far away, So I think there's stuff like that, obviously like women having more rights north of the wall than south and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think that's I don't think Skagos they're gonna be munching on people.
Skagos, we are vegetarians, somebody says in the comments. Yeah, that's great. They don't eat people.
They don't eat people. They're
because like they see like a bunch of like wrecked ships there, and like they're gonna find out that they didn't eat the people. They like incorporated them into their society. Like they're all happy.
I think that would be smart, right? Just because in a wildling sense, you'd want like people that arrived on shore would be blessings, like genetic blessings, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a lot to do with like Pacific Islander cultures where people, even though there are a lot of stories about cannibalism and like, Captain Cook himself was cannibalized, but like they, for the most part, when outsiders came, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so hot because you're of a different genetic stock. Please breed with us so that we don't have these genetic irregularities anymore. Word has it that George has more creative freedom and input on this series than he did in the regular show. Let's talk about the possibilities of that.
Not good. It's not a. It's did you when you can. I made the joke. I'll make it here. You can smell the Diet Coke at the Burger King all over this episode script too, because when Odo goes, "Stop this, Otto! Stop this, Mummer's farce." Who says that?
When
Who
he looks to the
fucking
camera
says
and he
that?
says, "Stop this mummer's farce."
Who
Yes.
fucking says that? All we need now is someone to say lobster chainmail or lobster mail fist, and there you go. That completes it.
Please hand me that boiled leather.
Give me
Oh,
that
Jesus
capon.
Christ.
Yes. I need capon drizzled with honey. Like, oh, like when we have an episode of just been like, what's next at the feast? Well, person sitting in the place of honor, we shall bring out, and then they just like the whole episode is like a menu described to them.
Boiled beets and steamed onions.
We mentioned this on the podcast, but like George, there's a difference between being a good novel writer and being a good episode writer. This is why I always give Dave and Dan all the credit in the world for the first couple of seasons, because they took, you and I did the rewatch. It's on, Patreon, YouTube exclusives. We did the episode a couple of first season rewatch, and you and I even agreed that like Dave and Dan took some of the book stuff and made it better, and took out some of the stuff that didn't make any sense for a modern audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the dialogue is definitely more George book like dialogue. So far, I would say it's mixed results. Like the lick spittle line in the pilot just didn't flow out, even though it's a great scene. Like, didn't flow out right, just suddenly throw in lick spittle. Like, I think in order to like have it work, the whole like everyone has to be speaking like that all of the time. Like, it can't just be like suddenly like you're gonna throw in lick spittle.
You know what I'm wondering? I wonder if like Ryan Condal, to appease George, he's like, "Hey, what do you think about?" And George gives like all these things, and Ryan Condal just picks one thing, one word, and he throws it in there. Thanks, George. Like, it's really a game at this point to figure out what line is from George. So episode 1 was lick spittle. This one is Mummer's farce. I wonder what episode 3's line will be. That you could tell it's from George.
Lobster gauntlet. I don't know. Any
Nuncle? What? Fuck it, why not, right? Nuncle, because Damon and Rhaenyra. Nuncle. I'm expecting Nuncle. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No. So I've done. This is like stupid Preston time, but I've done some research about Nuncle. So Nuncle. Some people are like, oh, Nuncle is a really stupid word. Everybody hates the word. Like, all fans hate the word Nuncle. Or, I mean, at minimum, have no opinion on it. But I think Nuncle first appeared in A Feast for Crows, and it was with the Ironborn, and so people are like, oh, maybe it's just like an Ironborn thing. But then people are like, oh, well, Jamie says it too, and you're like, okay, maybe it's an Ironborn West Coast of Westeros thing. But actually, like, Nuncle appears in Fire and Blood. And actually, it appears in Princess and the Queen and stuff. So the Targaryens are calling each other Nuncle. And actually, I think it's in the Elaine Sample chapter. Nuncle appears, so it at least appears in the Vale as well. So, sorry, Nuncle is just fucking everywhere. You can't. But creative freedom, so strangely, there has been a lot of creative freedom on certain things. Like the fact that they've completely changed Daemon's like Dragonstone plot, and shifted stuff around has been pretty interesting. So I think oddly, like, George is more concerned with the tiny little details than with the big broad strokes, which is the opposite of most people, right?
Because he had a problem with like his hated scene in Game of Thrones was like the hunting scene with Robert or something. It's like
Yeah.
throwaway scene that nobody really remembers.
So someone in my comment section, because I did a little video on that, and someone's like, yeah, it's probably George's diplomatic answer. He probably hated more stuff. That's fair. That's yeah. The Robert
Mm,
hunting scene seems like a nerd response. That's incredibly diplomatic.
you're right. Yeah, because it's something that like isn't immediately like offensive. Like it'll be like, oh, it was just the budget, something like that. Crunch for time. Like it's not specifically
Right.
criticizing like an individual person. Yeah.
George is a professional, and he's gonna say some professional shit. Me, on the other hand, I'll throw out like 42 scenes right there off the bat in season one that were trash.
Yeah.
So
I mean, people forget that George has been working in Hollywood for, since the late 80s. So it's not like he's not blind to this shit, you know.
oh, by the way, on the quick topic of George, real quick, I just want to make because someone asked me, like three people asked me, just now. No, George R. Martin did not really block me on Twitter. Like that's my Twitter wallpaper. Did you see this, Trey?
No, let me see it.
Go to my Twitter and look at my wallpaper. So a buddy of mine hits me up. I wake up and he goes, "Dude, George R. Martin blocked you on Twitter. What'd you do?" I'm like, "Wait, what? What did I do?" And it took me a couple of seconds to realize, wait a minute, you don't have access to my Twitter. So it was a prank, and I thought it was so funny. I just put it on
Yeah.
my Twitter wall. So
First of all, George doesn't run his own Twitter account. Okay. So don't like one of his minions does. But like so even if he did block it, it wouldn't have even been George. It would have been one of his minions. So
a couple of people have been asking, Carmine, what the fuck you do this time? I may or may not have told George I'd fucked his wife, and I'll fuck her again if he doesn't come out with Winds of Winter. I may or may not have said that, but no, that's a joke. Obviously, I would not do that. Maybe.
Those interns managing his Twitter must be working overtime. Have you seen the comments on his tweets? Like they'd be
Wait,
blocking everybody if they do that.
oh yeah. Oh my god.
no. Poor George.
My friend died last week. It's like, where's the book, George? Get off your ass. It's like, jeez.
Where are they supposed to be praying? The Sept of Baelor isn't built yet. I think they just like found some random room to throw some candles in. But yeah, the Sept of Baelor is not built yet. So I don't know where that was. Candle room, but fuck, a lot of candles. Oh,
Wow,
Carl decides to join us now. Carmine was bitching about you, Carl, for dubbing him Calzono. And
Yo,
and
I said shout out to this dude because he's the only funny guy in this comment section, and the comment section full of wannabe comedians. Shout out to him. But I still say Slay the Explainer is the best nickname. Hands down the best.
Thank you. I'm gonna use it.
will you have the Lands of Always Winter in the fan fiction? Also, it seemed weird to me that D&D cut out the female others. I probably will eventually have the Lands of Always Winter in the fan fiction. I definitely, George had made a comment that we're going to be going further and further north than ever before in the Winds of Winter. So, I mean, maybe it's just Bran looking far north like he did in the show, but I think that I think it would be, nice to have Summer or Ghost or somebody like that, like go north and see what's up there. And so that would be nice. But D&D cut the female others. Are there female others? So the people talk about the Knights King's Queen, and it's like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I think when like the story is just about him stealing a wildling who had pale skin and making her his queen. Like, there's no way that he brought a literal other and was having sex with her. Like, his penis would fall off. It would be like the guy from fucking The Boys who lost his penis having sex with like an ice girl. Like, you can't do it. You can't. There's no other sex. There's no other sex happening. Okay, like. Oh man. Diet Coke Tywin is still the best post premiere remark. No disrespect to all the hard work everyone's putting in. Um,
Nipples on a breastplate. Somebody said for like George, I guess like a phrase that'll come up in George in a future episode.
does Mummer's
Nipples
farce
on a
appear?
breastplate.
Does Mummer's farce appear anywhere other than Manderley's speech? Oh yeah, Mummer's farce appears perhaps
It's everywhere.
30 times. It's a really, in fact, like you can't say like, in fact, like when doing one of the chapters for the fan fiction, I used the word charade, and you're like, it turns out no, George R. R. Martin doesn't use the word charade, so we have to be like Mummer's farce, because yeah, I'm trying to think of how many times. Let's look up how many times does he use Mummer's farce. So he specifically 22 times in Ice and Fire, George uses Mummer's farce.
Right, but are you trying to write this as George would or as Preston Jacobs would?
As George would. You're trying to like mimic his style so that it like seamlessly feels like George. It's really difficult because there's also like which George, because Game of Thrones George is very different from A Feast for Crows, A Dance with Dragons George. And like, for instance, going with the Elaine sample chapter, like the Elaine sample chapter, which Elaine won, The Winds of Winter, which I love the chapter, but it's the biggest fucking time wasting chapter. Like, oh my God, like there's like there's so much description of like what's going on and random characters talking. And you're like, oh my, like what are you doing? And it's like, we got to get Elaine doing something. So there is a shift to all of a sudden like there being purpose rather than randomly talking to some knight on the side, so it's hard to get him like in a micro sense on sentence to sentence, but it's also like to get him in like the whether you're going to be dawdling and like time wasting versus like having stuff happen, which are two different George writing styles. Yes, and at least this episode they acknowledged that Cole was from the Stormlands and in the Dornish marches rather than fought against. Yeah, he did say that he fought against Dorne, so it was really weird that in the pilot they said he was Dornish when he.
Yeah, I was confused with that. I noticed that. Like, is he somebody who is Dornish that went over to Westeros, or is he mixed ancestry? I don't know what that implies.
Yeah, it's I guess like I mean, it might be like those situations of the Japanese Americans who fought for the United States during World War II, and like it being shown as like a degree of extra loyalty. Like, I mean, this is like these Japanese really existed. These Japanese Americans really existed, but they specifically make Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid a vet of World War II who was Japanese American who fought for America while his wife was put in an internment camp, and they have this story for him to make him more than American. Like, you think he's this foreign exotic like guy to laugh at, you're gonna treat him shitty, but he's actually he's like ultra American while being Mr. Miyagi at the same time. Like they might be doing something with like Kristen Cole that he's like ethnically Dornish, but he's so Westerosi that he fought for the Westerosi side against Dornish or something like that. So I mean, or it's just a fucking mistake. Who knows? Munkle sounds better than Nunkle. It's true. Then it'd be like my uncle, Munkle. You'd think it would come out like, and then I love Nunkle. It's so campy. It's ridiculous. It's true that it's just kind of funny. Munkle, Nunkle, my Nunkle.
I watched the teaser. They really are hyping up this crab feeder guy. Like I've never seen a villain, like a minor villain. Like there's gonna be Funko Pops of him. Like there's gonna be like merch of this guy.
I was telling Preston, like he looks like a mini boss for Damon and Corley's, like a mid-season boss, like right before the final boss. Who,
yeah,
I guess the final boss would be like Aemon. I guess because Aemon's the real villain of this season?
I suppose I mean, if you don't think it's like Otto Hightower, I mean,
Otto Hightower is like he's like a Diet Coke Tywin with a little finger in there. But yeah, I guess he's kind of a villain, more of an anti-hero, I guess. But Crabfeeder is like mini boss, and then Damon and his chin, not Damon, Aemon and his chin
Massive
are
ass
like
chin, yeah.
yeah. Have you seen that guy's chin? Fucking Jesus Christ, that's a man chin.
yeah, we'll see how these time jumps go. I know that from reading reviews from the people that got like the first 6 episodes that they thought the time jumps were very disorienting later on. Like this 6 month
Oh,
time jump wasn't so bad. In fact, had they not even said 6 months, like it would have been a fairly, and it just had it been an ambiguous amount of time, it probably would have been rather seamless. Um,
Did the reviews say they jump back and forth, or
no, no, they don't jump back and forth, but they did say that like having one episode months later and then another episode many years later and then another episode many years later was a little bit weird.
well, Game of
Um,
Thrones did that in its first season. It takes what episode one is like 298, and then by the first episode of season two, we're in 300 because Joffrey's name day.
hmm.
Um, and yeah, so episode season one of Game of Thrones takes place over the course of around 9 to 12 months with Dany because of her pregnancy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say even a little bit longer. So like, so yeah, the good rule of thumb, for people going like really like it's not precise, but I usually say like a Game of Thrones is a year, a Clash of Kings is 6 months, a Storm of Swords is like 3 months, and a Dance with Dragons is like a Dance with Dragons, a Feast for Crows is like 6 months. And so like you can kind of, it's not quite that. I think Storm of Swords might be like 4 months and Game of Thrones might be like 1 year and 3 months or something. But that's like roughly, if you think about it like that, it's it all kind of fits together. Um,
Well, to
but
be fair to the show, at least we're getting timestamps of when everything is, because that is something Game of Thrones did not do. So,
yeah, Game of Thrones, time was just, we never really got an idea of time passage, which is fine. I think if you do it too much, you're gonna start getting into you're gonna start contradicting yourself. Game of Thrones, like, obviously went so far that it became ridiculous. But you know, like when Carmine and I were doing the rewatch, and how Catelyn arrives and Catelyn uses the jetpack to get to King's Landing. And Carmine didn't notice, and he's like, "Fuck! I never noticed that." Like, it's because the first season was done very well, and you just kind of had this like seamless, like, time is passing. We're not sure how much time is passing, but it's passing.
I would have preferred they had like a scene of her on the boat with Roderick as they're like entering King's Landing. Not like, yeah, I didn't notice. Preston, stop ruining season one of Game of Thrones. You do this all the time.
Yeah, I know. They should have just had him go by boat. Yeah, that's true. But what's he gonna do? Um, was the Sept of Baelor and Cyrax's flyover in episode 1? I didn't see it. I think that maybe the Sept of Baelor. Well, that can't be true either, because I was like, geography wise, it almost looks like they've put the dragon pit in where the Sept of Baelor would be, but we know that the dragon pit exists in Game of Thrones, so that can't be right. Um, but I haven't seen a Sept of Baelor. It shouldn't be there, obviously, because Baelor isn't king yet. But
Hey, by the way, the Dragon Pit is in a weird position in House of the
mm,
Dragon versus where it is in Game of Thrones. For example, in Game of Thrones, the Dragon Pit looks like it's like near the city, not inside the city. Whereas in House of the
yeah.
Dragon, it's inside the city. So that's a little
I
weird.
was looking at the geography because I thought there was some error there, but it's in here it's on the very edge of the city. Like, you can see the houses going all the way up, and then it starts becoming nature like right after. So when they do the reverse shot, there's actually a lot of nature of them like leaving the dragon pit and then going in. But it did seem like a much longer walk because they have that in in Game of Thrones, like they have the long walk where all the different characters are talking to each other, so we feel like it's a long distance in nature and not urban. But you're right that here it's urban right up until the point of the dragon pit, and then it's not. You know, so I do think there's some
What's
sort
the
of change there.
what's the status of the dragon pit in the books? Like, do we ever visit it or see what's going on there?
No, no. I don't. Besides in Fire and Blood, where there's stuff that happens at the Dragon Pit during the storming of King's Landing, like the riots of King's Landing. Um, there's a big scene where there's a riot in King's Landing, and the rioters, go to the Dragon Pit and kill the dragons. And spoilers. I'm sorry, everybody, but this the Dragon Pit's never really mentioned outside of Fire and Blood. It's not mentioned in the main series at all.
Huh? Because it seems like a big structure. Like you think that they would utilize it for something or take stones from it, or I don't know.
You're talking like real life, yes.
Yeah, real life stuff, I guess.
Wait, doesn't Barristan tell Danny about the dragon pit?
um,
Hmm.
dry. Look, I'll do a search of Dragon Pit right now. No, he says I think there's a conversation about the size of dragons, and he says like they used to be in the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, I know Quentin talks about it briefly,
Well,
but
the
doesn't
term
Barristan
dragon pit is
also?
never used, but I don't know if like it might be in a different linguistic format. But you know, the pit where they store the dragons, I don't know. But I searched for dragon pit and it's not in. But
Oh, Clash of Kings, like sex workers like take customers there and find wildfire from
yeah,
Arius's day. So I guess that's something.
yeah. So the dragon pit definitely in the riots gets, the roof collapses or something, and so like but you're right that realistically the pieces of the dragon pit would have been taken and used in houses of other stuff. This is a big
Yeah,
thing
because
about
it's on Rhaenys' Hill. It's like a prominent spot too.
yeah, yeah. This is a big problem in archaeology when you like do a dig site. Um, is you'll find that pieces of older houses are used to create the newer houses. And so the
Hmm.
question is if you're restoring a site, what time period do you want to restore it to? So like if you find that like a column from the Temple of Zeus has been used as in the wall of the church for Jesus, like which thing are you going to restore? Like like because you have a choice, you can't do both. Like and so this is a like obviously if you find it like propping up a peasant's home, you can like be like, okay, let's make the choice that the peasant's home is not important, let's recreate the temple. But when it's like temple being made into temple, it's tougher. um
Hmm.
but you're right that like the dragon's pit pieces should have been retaken and reappropriated for other things. But it's quite a structure. I don't know how they built that thing. That's like that's
Yeah,
like Lord of the Rings level construction kind of shit.
yeah, and it's not like it was built during like the height of Illyria. It's like post Aegon, so it's like Westerosi tech making it. That's interesting.
Um, let's see. Mm. The others will visit Skagos a la Hardhome, Dead Things in the Water, and will capture, convert, cannibal. It is known. Thanks for the comment, by the way. Yeah, this is the discussion of so there's a big mystery. So there's a fan theory about the cannibals of Skagos that we don't know what happened to the dragon cannibal. Um, we don't know where he came from. We don't know where he went. There's this one dragon called Cannibal that no one's ever ridden. That he's just kind of there, and he he disappears, and so people are like, well, maybe he went to Skagos and he's been living there the whole time. And that when they talk about the cannibals of Skagos, we're really talking about him. And it's like, well, maybe we don't know, but that would be something. that maybe that's how they're going to get the white dragon. Will you upload the Elaine sample chapter before uploading the fanfic chapter? Yes, I will.
Yo,
I
you
recorded.
fucking guys need to fuck off with this. This is Yo, I keep getting comments. Yo, dude, you gotta get Preston to get that Elaine sample chapter, bro. And ask him. He's right here. He's right here. Why are you asking me?
Yeah, it's yeah. No, I recorded the Elaine. I spent the time. I recorded the Elaine sample chapter, so that there'll be some consistency, and then we'll work on Elaine, but Elaine 2, though. Not I can't work on it today because my voice will be gone.
Someone when you uploaded the after show, someone's like, "Yeah, Preston, where is it?" And you're like, "I'm recording it," in the comment section, and they're like, "You really should get Red Team or Glidus or someone else to record that for you." Nope, that shit's like 10,000 words. Fuck that. Fuck. Fuck that. I barely want to record my shit as it is. You want me to record
Just imagine you doing the reading. You're like, and then Littlefinger. Fuck this paragraph's too long. Fuck this. I'm going to the next one. What's this bullshit?
No. Maybe.
Luke Grafton? Is he even in the books? What is this? I can just see like commentary the whole time.
I did read it, by the way. It was to the audience who don't know. I did read it. It was actually pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's a few last finishing touches we need to do on it, and I need to like. It takes a while to actually like record it because, I don't like all the little mess ups that happen in normal speech and stuff like that. Or if there's too much of a click with my tongue or whatever, fucking.
Why don't you just have one of the audience like record it? Like just have some of the audience do it because people will do it for free. You're a YouTuber. Use this power of yours. Ask some people to audition for you. Make sure they have a good fucking microphone.
For my ASMR audience, okay. My ASMR audience, the people that like go to sleep to me, that kind of shit,
I know that.
It's time you assholes paid it back.
But God, do I hate the clicking. So like, there are some days. It's like some days your voice is doing great, and then some days it's not. And like every time you do an L, there's like, and every time you do like it's just there's just clicks constantly, and you're like trying to drink water or do something to try to open your mouth wide, but there's just all the saliva going when you record.
You know why me
videos.
And Trey don't have this problem? It's because we record on Audacity. Join the club. Come on. Look at his face. You come on. Tell the audience what you used to record. Go ahead, tell them.
Oh, me?
Yeah, tell the audience what you used to
record. I
use
Final Cut Pro 10.
Right. When that come out?
They do updates all the time. I mean,
you can remove those clicks, and like for example, you don't have the graphics card that I do because I have I don't know. I think I showed you, Trey. I have RTX voice. So if I'm doing this while I record, and I turn it on, you can't hear my snapping, just my voice. It's fucking awesome. You don't have a graphics card. So what you can do is record on Audacity, and then that breath, you can catch it and noise remove just those things, and you'll be fine. Even the clicks.
It's hard to believe, because it's actual saliva clicking,
I use Audacity and I still have the clicks, but like you can noise reduce it, but it is really annoying, especially like if you catch it late and you're like, oh, I got to re-record.
Right, and your voice never sounds the same as it did. Like that's the other thing about like recording sessions is that like when you do one recording session, your voice in that hour sounds different than if you went back the next day or you're like in the morning and like it's insane how much your voice will shift, and which is like I notice it in professional movies and shows. Like the after recordings are always obvious, like his voice sounds completely different because they did it in a different session. I hope to persuade you that Skagos should be more crazy than we expect. Opposite to the wildlings, why have normal people when you could have Lovecraft House of the Worm? Think about it, my friend. or both. The idea is, to like just be completely different, but not have anything that people expect. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like, you want something entertaining and interesting and shocking. Um, which is what, like the wildlings are that they're shocking in ways we didn't expect, and not shocking in other ways. So
Oh, real
um
quick, by the way, before you move on to his,
yeah.
someone hit me up and they said, anyone going to bring up the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard died within the first sentence of episode 2? They spend like 7 seconds on it, and that's it.
It's only fucking Ryan Redwine. Nobody, right? The greatest knight to ever live dies in the first and they're just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just give him a burial. It's fine. It's fine. Um, does no one have a problem with Vagar on vacation at an unknown location? Um, Also, we can have a dramatic Vagar entrance later on. Well, Trey and I talked about this earlier. The book is really stupid. This is actually, I think it's somewhat fixing a George goof in Fire and Blood. That there's no reason logically, politically, geographically, that Lena Valarian should have claimed Vagar. It's really quite silly. Like, why would they let her into the dragon pit? This like family that's been feuding, and she lives on Driftmark. Did she sneak in the middle of the night and get past the guards to claim to this 12-year-old girl, like, or 10-year-old girl, or however she old? We don't know when she claims, but she claims at some point. Like, did she sneak in at some point and claim the dragon? How did it happen? And it's like, well, it doesn't really make sense. So let's have Vagar be missing. And I don't know if they're still going to have Lena claim him,
They
claim
are. I
her.
believe they are.
Yeah. So,
I think we see her in one of the trailers writing it, like older Lena,
yeah.
and
Okay.
that makes sense. That what you just said makes sense. Like, because she claimed it, but how did she? Yeah, you're right.
Right.
So,
So,
and
like,
how are they supposed to like keep Vagar on their check? They can't
yeah.
rein him in.
So, I mean, it's a little silly because, Balon dies of an appendicitis. So he would have put his dragon in the dragon pit or something, or somewhere. Unless he was just like, fuck it, he's too big for the dragon pit. Every time I land in King's Landing, I let him just fucking fly off and fucking kill sheep and children, or whatever dragons do when they're wild. Um, so I mean, George had a lot of plot holes with regards to Vagar and the dragons to begin with. This is trying to fill it. It's a little silly, I admit, that they just be like, dragons loose nowhere. No one knows where the fuck he is. Like, like, could you imagine, like, nuclear warhead missing, but I'm sure it's no big deal. Like,
Don't we have a situation like that in Fire and Blood with Balerion when he goes missing? And like they're like legitimately concerned and trying to find him and stuff.
yeah. Well, I don't know if Balerion goes missing with Arya Targaryen. Arya steals
Mm.
him and takes him to Valyria, and then comes back. But Balerion the Black Dread definitely fit in the dragon pit um, because Viserys like goes in and rides him once, and then brings him back. So the fact that Vagar wouldn't fit in the dragon pit doesn't really make any sense, because Vagar wasn't as big as Balerion.
Mm.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, it's a little silly, but there's plot holes, but it's not as big as George's plot holes, so I'm gonna forgive it. Like, George's
Mm.
plot hole is much bigger than like their explanation here in the show. Just wanted to say thank you for all your great content, and to the community, and to you boys for all the fun.
That's a lot of knocks. My God.
Yeah, nice stuff. Um, what is RLD? Do you stand by RLD? I don't know what that means.
Trey.
I don't know what that means. No. Is it a person? RLD?
I was gonna say Robert Downey Jr., but no, that thing is.
What does that stand for? The regulatory authority in New Mexico?
Yeah,
I don't know.
clearly. How big was Balerion? We don't know exactly, but we know that he was the biggest dragon ever. Oh, R plus L equals D.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, is R? Oh, sorry. Well, is RLD like red letter media domination? Is it's like RLD?
Yeah, always coming in late. Always coming in late.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm late to the party, but thank you for having me. It's great. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Anytime. What did you think of the episode, Phil?
I like this one a little bit better than the last one because it felt like a more lived-in episode. Like Carmine was saying it good in his review about it seemed like a good start to an arc, where the last episode it was more of like shiny things, let's grab attention. I'm not a big pilot fan. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting pushed episode, but I thought it felt more of like a real world we were living in, where the last episode it sort of flashed so quickly from scene to scene that it felt more like a highlight reel at times. This actually felt more like a real world at some points, but I have a couple issues here and there, especially with the use of silence. I don't necessarily like. I hate to say it, but I don't necessarily like the soundtrack. I like how they chose to use music incorporated with the Game of Thrones. There was so much more iconic themes, not just the opening theme, but from scene to scene, so many more memorable. Each character had a theme to a certain extent. We're not really getting that in this. We're getting a lot of like, ew, ew, like crescendos and weird sounds in the background to create unease. And I wouldn't mind a little bit more music at times. I think that adds to the nothingness feel at times, but it's pretty good. Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was saying, earlier, and people that have been watching for a while, I'm a broken record, but yeah, I was saying that like, it didn't have as many like powerful good moments as the first episode, but it also didn't have as many cringe horrible moments as the first episode. There's less to actually make fun of and like poke holes in. That it relied on the strength of like two people having a really good conversation and it being strong like that.
And I think one of the strong suits of the show is definitely the actors and the portrayals of the characters, even if some of the other stuff isn't quite always perfect. So that can fix a lot in scenes that you get in tonight's episode where, as you said, there's less stuff, straight out cringy stuff you could make fun of easily. So you can fall on some just good performances of actors that are just in like more slower down scenes. And it's just theatrical, like Rhaenys and Rhaenyra, like just acting back and forth. It's just a small scene between the two of them that's just good dialogue going back and forth. And that's the biggest difference between this and later late season Game of Thrones. It's the dialogue. The dialogue's definitely much noticeably better.
Yeah. Yeah. There's. I mean, I say my favorite scene of the episode was Rhaenys and Rhaenyra.
Yeah, that was mine probably as well.
Yeah, and then weirdly, I really liked Lionel Strong, who looks very different than he does in the pilot. But he did it. It was a really great scene with him. It is an odd thing how pilots are always so different than the rest of the show. Like just how they look, how the actors look, how they're written. So I guess this was the real show, and what we saw before was the pilot, and there is a significant difference.
It's amazing how much it is, and especially the way it used to be, where you watch a pilot of something and then the actual show starts a couple of years later. They started filming the second episode, so you see that in Game of Thrones, even within the initial pilot itself, where they filmed part of it in the original pilot and then part years later. So you see some of the matchups of like the actors' hair not being quite perfect.
The kids being all old, yeah.
Yep.
Real quick on R plus L equals D, because people mentioned this. I think I now have the opinion that Daenerys is a dragon seed. That that she's actually a random kid from Dragonstone, and that's where she got her special blood from. But on a YouTube channel I've never seen, there's a George R. R. Martin interview posted 2 days ago. They totally bring up Roy Dotrice, how he isn't around anymore, to finish the series because he hasn't finished the books.
Carmine and I are laughing too much about that.
Who has seen that channel?
I don't know. Not many.
Roy, that's bringing up. I mean, I would like, that's ballsy because, like, first of all, George R. R. Martin was very good friends with Roy Dotrice. Roy Dotrice was an actor on George R. R. Martin's first series, Beauty and the Beast. And Roy Dotrice was, this incredible actor, incredible voice actor who had, like, Guinness Book of World Records or something with the number of distinct voices he could do at like 150 or something. I think that's exaggerated. If I've listened to his audiobooks enough where I'm like, it's not 150. I'll grant there's like 45, but like, which is incredible. But like 100, like, it's great. He's great. He lived a long, wonderful, rich life. He died at 91. But yeah, George didn't write fast enough, and he died, and so he cannot do the voiceovers.
Hey, look, man, Ice and Fire. This ain't like a small time book anymore. It's not the 90s. This is like one of the biggest books in popular culture right now. If World War Z, the audiobook, which was phenomenal by the way, could get fucking Mark Hamill, we can get For Winds of Winter if that comes out. We can get some like top notch voice actors to do like each character.
Yeah,
but rest in peace, Roy. But come on.
Even that said, like he's used Harry Lloyd, the Viserys actor, Viserys 3, not Viserys 1.
Duncan Egg.
And he did Duncan Egg, and Harry Lloyd is fucking phenomenal as a doing that audiobook. And the actor that does Jorah Mormont has done a bunch of stuff for him, and he's really good. So his style is not so much creating the distinct voices, but he still just is a really, really great audiobook reader. There's some. It's amazing how many actors and actresses out there who can do really, really great voice acting. The Claudia Black, for example, who you might know from like Farscape and stuff, like, she's incredible as a voice actor. If you've ever seen her, if you've ever like gotten anything that she's read, and Mark Hamill, incredible.
Preston, have you ever listened to any of the Star Trek audiobooks that have like all the actors reading the book? So if it's a story about Riker, it will have like Riker reading it. There's a couple of Deep Space Nine ones with the actor that plays Gowron. That he's an amazing voice actor doing all the different voices.
Really?
Yeah, some of them are cheesy fan fiction-y, but look them up on YouTube. And pretty much any of the actors, some with Shatner doing it, some with Sulu doing it. And if it's a story about the particular character, they do the voice, but then you get to hear them do the other members of the cast. It's kind of funny listening to like George Takei do his Kirk impression in one, or there's a Quark story that he does, the narration for the whole thing. And the other thing, Beauty and the Beast, like the Ron Perlman Terminator, the girl from the Terminator, that one, George R. R. Martin worked on that. I didn't know he worked on that show.
Oh yeah, so he was the showrunner for Beauty and the Beast. The show lasted 3 seasons. This is the kind of funny thing about Sarah Connor. Like, Ice and Fire has 3 links to Sarah Connor, because obviously, like, the original Sarah Connor is Beauty on Beauty and the Beast. So George
Daenerys,
right, and then Emilia Clarke plays her in Genesis, and then Lena Headey plays Sarah Connor in the Terminator Chronicles. So there's freaking 3 connections. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I might have to hop off, but thank you for having me.
Hey, no, thank you for joining me, man.
Of course. See you, Phil. See you, Carmine.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, man. Or I
Nice
last
to meet
week
you,
we
too.
were going back and forth. You were like back and forth, but great to meet you, man.
Yeah, yeah. All right. See you guys.
PC's Trey.
But I don't know if George had any response to the voice actors or whatever, or bringing up Roy Dotrice. But this is his friend that that died. So it's
His friend died?
Roy Dotrice.
Yeah, this is his friend that died?
No. I'm saying that George R. R. Martin's friend is Roy Dotrice, who died.
I know. I'm saying Roy Dotrice is his friend, and Roy Dotrice died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
High
that sucks. Yep, I want the winds of winter, Preston. I don't care about this. I want the winds of.
Someone just texted me, says if I refer to Otto as middle finger with Preston and Carmine, they win $100. So I think you're gonna win there people were referring to Otto as middle finger low tower or something like
that. He does seem very he does seem creepy, like he hasn't been sleeping.
I think that's just the actor. To Josh's super chat, yeah, that interview, we cannot get through it. It was very boring, and nobody saw it. Nobody cares. So.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't you task Dragon Demands with watching it, and he gave you the highlights?
Yo, I hit up Dragon Demands. I'm like, Dragon Demands, I can't get through this shit. Who are these people? Who knows? Who cares? And he goes, I got it. And then he watched it, poor guy, and he gave us some highlights. And to his... What did he say? I think he said, yeah, that was boring. He goes, yeah, there's nothing drastically new, and that was boring, and that was it. So, oh man.
The poor Dragon Keepers cleaning up all that poop. Yeah, those are some big poop piles that they've got to, but I'm trying to think like pound for pound, like would it be more than like horse stables? Because if you've got like a whole bunch of horses, you know.
Wouldn't it be hilarious? Wouldn't it be hilarious if dragons actually had like rabbit-sized poops? Like all that, you know, they don't actually poop. It's just these like tiny pellets.
Have you ever met like have you been friends with like really like, you know, say a really girly girl who they always kind of make jokes like, you know, when like how does she poop? Like does she just like emanate rainbows and that's how like she gets rid of her waste? Like,
rainbows and flowers. Yeah.
Rainbows and flowers. That's how dragons do it, man. Rainbows and flowers. Yeah. No
people like Auto middle finger Chad Tower. Yeah, I like that. Chad Tower of Tower middle finger. The poop is incinerated. Dragon poop is gold.
Otto is middle finger. I get it. Middle finger instead of little finger. Gotcha.
That took you a minute. Jesus.
I did. It's because they, you know, even though they're both scheming, like, you know, like there's a very different demeanor to the two. So like, I didn't make the connection because Littlefinger is this like shit-eating grin, like guy who you love to hate, and Otto Hightower is just a fucking cunt, as like Daemon Targaryen described him. Right?
How dare you? You're not Australian. You can't use that word.
You have to say it like kunt.
He's a kunt.
But one thing I not liked, but I thought was interesting about his manipulation tactic is, which makes him a little different and closer, I guess, to maybe the spider, is he used fake empathy in this episode, like trying to connect with the king about, you know, I lost my wife too. I know how you feel. Like have that sort of emotional stuff. That's something that Tywin, even if you call him like lo-fi Tywin or low rent Tywin or something, that's a different tactic. It's something unique to him.
Tywin's more of a bully, right? Like Tywin.
Go click that.
Tywin would never be like, "Oh, I know how you feel," because one, he probably doesn't know how you feel, but two, like if he did have a feeling, he's gonna push that feeling back inside until it becomes.
Press the scroll up a little bit. That's an interesting thing that Josh said. Right there. George got canceled. Read that?
Would it be less boring if I told you George got himself canceled like 3 times by repeating how in the good old days fans would totally skinny dip at the hotel pool cons and you could mess around?
What?
So George, so this is some weird shit about like George R. R. Martin. So like, so in many George R. R. Martin stories, like George has these like ideas of like people coming together and using kind of various festivals as like a time to go crazy and like fuck, you know. This happens in Ice and Fire essentially with like Harrenhal, like this idea that like everybody's coming together and like people go nuts, and it's a bit analogous to um so like someone from Munich might think about it with respect to Oktoberfest. Like if you talk to a lot of people from Munich, they'll be like, "Yeah, I met my wife at Oktoberfest," or "I broke up with my old girlfriend and I met somebody new at Oktoberfest." Like it's this like time of change and time of hooking up, and the same with like Swedes and like Midsummer and stuff like that. Like there are these moments where people just kind of decide, I'm gonna go nuts, and like it's the time for love, and like cut loose. Americans tend to call that Friday, but like or
Friday at 5 p.m.
or college in general or something. But like you know, you know, George has these like seasonal things. So like he speaks about, and I've been in the room as well with him when he's talked about his love for cons and like how crazy they were and how like he loved the parties and the hookups and stuff. So he would talk about like how cons was this great time to like meet up and hook up. Now I'm sure cons are a great time to meet and hook up. It's just like looking at it logically, I know that science fiction cons are like a 9-to-1 ratio of men to women. So like I don't know if like I really think they're a great place to like hook up.
Especially those old school ones, like the old school Trek cons. It was basically 9-to-1 is being generous, Preston.
And having been in environments where where the ratio is 9-to-1, like the only way to get laid is to keep your standards low and your spirits high. Like that's so. I suppose if you went to a con and you're just like, I'm up for anything, maybe. But he's a free loving hippie, so maybe that was the case. But he or maybe because he was like the big deal that he's winning an award at the cons, that people are like, oh yeah, let's hook up.
You think you think he was the type to indulge in the groupie lifestyle of those cons at that time?
He didn't have much time, I will say, like knowing his life. Like he gets married to Gail and he's married to her for about 5 years, and then he divorces her, and I'm trying to remember when he met Paris. But he doesn't have that much, unless he has some secret open relationship or something that I don't know about, but he doesn't actually have that much single time under his belt. So, but talking about some this is the thing, we're talking about like the fat pink mask times.
The chat's going, it's Lord of the Cons. George R. R. Martin whipped out that fat pink mask with the con girls.
But also like I've also heard him describe like different women and in his writing, and it'll be like, oh, that person's like a stone cold fox. And I'll look at the person and be like, that person is not a stone cold fox. That is a 3. Like it's.
We have to deal with this. We have to deal with this comment in the chat right now. Someone said Otto is smarter and more savvy than Tywin. Are you drunk, sir? Are you drunk? What do you think about that?
Well, I'd have to really think about that one. I mean, because Otto is getting everything he wants, while Tywin kind of fucked up, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's also dealing with an easier pushover, soft king to manipulate. Viserys isn't really a tough person to manipulate. It's playing like easy mode in a game to a certain extent. But yeah, he is getting what he wants so far.
Yeah. And I mean, if in the end his real goal is to kill off dragons, he's going to get that goal. I don't know if that's his goal, or if his real goal is to put, his heir on the throne. He kind of gets that until it's not. I'm trying to think. Does his descendants? I'm trying to remember who Aegon the Third marries, because Aegon the Third is a descendant of Rhaenyra and Daemon, not.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, Ian. I know you're sober. I'm just having fun with you.
Yeah. This is the thing about the internet,
like, I'm not
right?
drunk,
Like,
I'm sober.
it's like Phil is one of like the nicest, gentlest guys, and the fact that like somebody could like be like, dude, you fucking messing with me. No, it's just
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you're sober. I was just being joking.
he's just joking around. He's just joking
man.
around.
I'm sorry.
Like
I know this. By the way, I know this could be scary right now, but I can check them out. If anyone wants to call on in and leave us a voicemail, you can do that at 781-990-8509. I'll put that in the chat right now. I will screen the call before I listen to it. But if anyone wants to leave a voicemail and Preston's okay with listening to it, please call on in at 781-990-8509. I'll put that
That's
in the
right.
chat.
You have that thing. Are you cool with that, person?
Sure.
Anyone wants
Phil,
to leave
just
a
make sure
voicemail?
there's like no racial slurs.
Oh, no,
There it
I'll
is.
listen. I'll mute myself here and listen to the message before I play it. Make sure it's a legit question. If anyone wants to call.
So in the end, I suppose Hightower doesn't. His descendants die off. So we don't. Eventually, I mean, Baelor is a Hightower descendant, but like. Oh no! Actually, they dies off before because Jaehaera does not have any children with Aegon the Third. So I guess it depends on what Hightower's goal is. If his goal is killing off dragons, he got exactly what he wanted. If he wanted his descendants to be on the Iron Throne, he fails. So I don't know, but Tywin fucking fails too. So let's see here. Oh, by the way, I was saying like if we list like who's the biggest jerk like down, like I am like of the people that call in here, like I'm the biggest jerk. Like I'm by far the biggest dickhead.
How?
Carmine might be number two.
Not in real life. In real life, you're a sweetheart, Preston. Like, you're.
Oh, me!
I'm sorry to break
I'm talking about the competition, right? Like, like it's me. I'm the biggest dick. Carmine's number two. Glidus is number three. Phil is number four, and Trey is the nicest guy. I'm sorry, Phil, that you got.
Oh no, that's okay. I only pretend to be a nice guy to get in places. I'm really kind of secretly a dick. Carmine's Carmine's talked to me when I'm being straight up dickish. Like he can definitely attest to that truth. Yes, test 707. You can send a text message too, so that works. 707. You got the right number.
Do you think the deaths of the dragons could have been entirely avoided if Viserys had married Corlys's daughter, or was the Targaryen infighting inevitable? I mean, the even bigger one is like, had Viserys married Rhaenys, everything could have been avoided too, theoretically. But I think the Maesters would have fucking caused a problem eventually. Like if the Maester conspiracy is true, and I think I think the Maester conspiracy is completely true in the book, and I think they're putting it in the show too. We're getting some hints towards
really?
it.
After that scene where like Viserys talks to Otto and the Grand Maester, and the Grand Maester's like, "Well, Laena seems like a good match."
Yeah, but Laena, that's from the book too. Laena's not a good match. Like Laena's not a good match, but Laena's not a good, especially not a good match in the book because Viserys has trauma from betting 12-year-old girls previously, but I don't think he's a very good match. Or he might be saying that, after the fact that like he already knows about the Alicent hookup. He already knows that like somebody's got to be, I don't know, prescribing moon tea or something. I don't know. He might already know about that things are on track. Um, Marwyn lied to us. Maybe, but it's it's not just Marwyn. It's also Lady Dustin. Just the fact that we have like 2 points of a conspiracy makes us kind of think that. I mean, obviously Marwyn's one specifically mentioned the dragons, but um, the Marwyn's conspiracy was anti-dragons, and Lady Dustin's implication was that the conspiracy was anti-Targaryen.
So whenever you guys are ready, we do have 2 clean voicemails.
It's like, what did he say? Marry the queen who never was when she was already married to the sea snake? Before she gets married to the sea snake. This is the whole idea. Before Viserys was alive, Rhaenys was alive. You could have gotten married before she got married to the sea snake.
Preston, you down to listen to those voicemails?
Sure thing.
Here we go. Here's the first one. Area code 503.
Hey, what's up, Preston? My name is Will, and I've been a big fan for a lot of years now, and I've been watching you for a lot of years now. But I wanted to ask you if you had any idea what those 3 ships are, because I know they're in Essos and they go to Westeros, but I wanted to figure out who they are and what they're about and what they're doing, because that's been bugging me for the longest time. But I appreciate you and thank you for sharing your content and your theories and your videos and everything. So appreciate you, man.
Hey, thanks. I think he's referring to in A Feast for Crows and a Dance with Dragons. There's this galleass, a galley, and the galleass, the galley, and a cog. It might be cog, galleass, and a galley. And they start appearing, these 3 ships, in different locations. Like Brienne spots them in when she's at Maidenpool, and then I think they end up going north. And so I think the galleass, the galley, and the cog, there's some questions about whether or not they're carrying the Karstark heir on board and all sorts of things. Let me look this up again, because this is an old I forgot about this, but this is something that I looked into. Let's see here.
And yeah, Carmine, you never can tell with these calls. You listen to some of the Better Call Saul streams I did. You never can tell with the calls. And isn't this part of Littlefinger's debt scheme? Just reading in the live chat a little bit. Oh, we got the porn bots. That's how you know you're doing good, Preston, when you get those porn bots popping on in. And Orlando says, do you still think A Song of Ice and Fire is post-apocalyptic, Preston?
I definitely still think it's post-apocalyptic, but I don't necessarily think it's important that it is. It's just kind of this random thing that George is going to have as like setting. It's Brienne. Here we go. So in Brienne 3, we've got a galley, a galleass, and a 2-masted cog. We're in port, and that thing. This is where he's like, the ship stuff is some of the stuff that really drove me nuts, because like you're like, holy shit, George has been like doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Okay. Now I'm getting back. This is like I'm finding like posts from like 8 years ago. I recently watched Preston's series on Littlefinger debt scheme. I'm not sold on it. Tycho Nestoris arrives with a cutter of pike, informs me that the galleass, a galley, and a cog have arrived. And then Brienne sees that galleass, and a cog in port. And then in Davos and White Harbor, there's the trading galley Storm Dancer, the cogs Brave Magister, Horde of Plenty, and a galleass from Bravos, marked with the purple hull. Yeah, that's right. One of the ships. Oh, that's right. Now it's all coming to me. those three ships are are Bravosi ships, and you can track a sort of uh, journey of what the Bravosi are doing over the course of those three ships. And then there's the question of whether or not the Bravosi are doing something in the various ports. So clearly Tycho Nestoris is getting dropped off at the wall. But then there's the question of why would the Bravosi be talking to Randall Tarley? And there's something weird with that where I think Randall Tarley is giving judgment to various criminals, and one of the guys is accuses somebody else, or one of the guys is getting accused of cheating at dice, and he gives no punishment to the guy off the cog, but he gives punishment to his own man. And it's like, that's really odd for Randall Tarley to let this one guy go when everybody else was getting punished really hard. So why would he let the Bravosi guy off if he's from the Bravosi ship? And so there's this question of whether or not Randall Tarley is scheming with the Bravosi, which is, we're getting into tinfoil territory, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. But yeah, this is the idea, is that those three ships are supposed to trail the Bravosi movement, but it leads into some questions about, what other things are they transporting? Like, I think the Karstark Air was at Maidenpool, and so maybe the Karstark Air went north, or maybe Randall Tarley is scheming with the Bravosi or knows something about the debt. Or maybe it's just fucking George wanted to throw those three goddamn ships in as Easter eggs. Who knows? But there's a lot of opportunities there. But yeah, it's definitely the Bravosi thing. That's the three ships.
People are asking me what that was. It's a voicemail I got after the Dickon episode on Game of Thrones that goes like this. Dickon. It continues. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it goes like that.
I imagine it's just Dickon, the whole Dickon the whole time.
Yeah. It's the whole time. We do have a couple more voicemails if you guys want to listen to them.
All right.
This is from area code 513.
I'm calling to see how you guys feel about the intro sequence. With Game of Thrones, the intro sequence kind of set us in the world, obviously going through the map and giving us a preview of what the episode's going to contain when it goes to each location that the episode is centered around. How do you guys feel with the House of the Dragon intro sequence with the blood and the symbols representing different characters on the family tree, and how that's different, not quite like setting us in time, but setting us in the succession and the family dynamics and that. Curious what your thoughts are.
Phil, what do you think?
I don't know. What I want to do is actually pass this over to Carmine, because he hinted this during his review about some issues he might have had with the intro. So I'm curious to hear more of Carmine's opinion on the intro. Carmine, what are your thoughts on the intro? Did you like that they used the classic Game of Thrones song? Did you like it compared? Because you said something along the lines of you enjoyed it, but it's not something you'd watch every single time. What are some of your thoughts on the intro?
That fucking sucked. Like, we've seen it done better before. Like, why did we need? I'm glad they reused the song, but like, basically, and I'm taking this from Reddit because, of course, someone in Reddit pointed out, and I don't know how they could see this. It's so blurry. I'll have to. Did my official HBO episode download? I mean, not download yet. No. So apparently, if you slow it down, and of course, it's going to be in the Easter egg videos. If you slow it down, it's actually some of the little spinny like thingies. They're supposed to be callbacks to previous kings and important Targaryen figures, but who the fuck cares? Like, the original opening was way better. They probably should have stuck to that.
Yeah. I thought it was. I thought it was okay. It's. I agree. It's like I was hoping if they were going to use the same theme song. I know it seems trivial, but as a music guy, I wanted like a slight remix of it or something. I know might sound stupid, but like a faster pace or something just to create some difference while still using the iconic theme. I thought it was decent. It was fun to have an intro, but I'm not going to remember that in the same way, and I'm not going to think about it in the same way I thought of what, like you think of those iconic HBO intros on certain shows, Oz, The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, three just to mention, even The Wire, with every season having I know Carmine, you said you just watched The Wire, but every season having a different version of that song. HBO
Westworld, yeah.
Westworld as well. Yeah, the intros are incredible. This is all right. It's not memorable. It's meh. It's meh. I
You
was a
you
little meh by it.
you made me think about like remix. When you're like remix, I'm like do 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 do. Um,
Sorry.
yeah, my opinion is I think it's a really cool idea abstractly. Like, oh, this like blood running in bloodlines, like a family tree, like flowing forward in time towards a destination. Like, I think abstractly that's a really cool idea. I think in execution and repeated execution, like we're going to be watching this every week for the rest of the show. Like, it doesn't add anything. Like, I couldn't tell who the seals were. Like, you should have at least put the names. Um, but even that information isn't really useful to the viewer. Like, I would have preferred like a map, you know.
Yeah, it
At
was
least show me like at least show a map of King's Landing, Driftmark, Dragonstone, Lice, and Old Town, you know, or something. It doesn't give the viewer any knowledge that they're gonna use. And my wife just said it looked gross, like, you know, of rushing around. But you know, it's a really cool idea. Like, I'm sure like when somebody like explain that, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have like Valyria and it's gonna be like a family tree, but the blood's gonna be flowing and they're gonna be flowing in and out of each other, and we're gonna have these seals like unlock of each important person in the family tree, and like, oh, that sounds really fantastic. And then just executed, it just looks horrible. Doesn't
it's like
doesn't doesn't add anything.
the Virtual Boy sounded like a good idea to Nintendo, and then it was just all in red. And you realize that if it's all one color, it's it's overboard. It's too much of one thing, and it seemed all sort of one note. Where you think of the Game of Thrones one, where everything's so intricate. You look at the little model. I would have rather them just do that same thing around Viserys's Valerian model. I think that would have looked cooler because it's bright. You know, it was all white and it was brighter, and I think they could have done a cool thing with that instead of the blood thing, which all came out as just it was just hard. With everything in this show visually, I think improved, and a lot of textures in the cinematography, and the CG looks sharp on the show. The intro looked like blur, like bleh. It was a little dark. It was dark and red and
Yeah, shaky camera. I couldn't. It's like
You gave me a great idea just now. I actually think I'm gonna hit up a couple of graphic designers and like animators, because you know what would have been a better intro is the whole intro is about like the Targaryen family dynasty. What if instead we had the map and it showed the Targaryen voyage from Old Valyria to Dragonstone, and then the blood spreads across Westeros of them conquering the kingdoms? That would be infinitely better. HBO, send the check. I'm sorry, but send the check.
Yeah, that would be beautiful.
Oh, that would have been beautiful. Or even like a little montage, like, you know how like they do montage history with the little panels and stuff. Like, had you done a montage of history of like their voyage, like the invasion, Maegor, Aenys, Jaehaerys, Alysanne, you know, bringing us up the council, you know, bringing us up to speed, would have been better, you know. But like, that's the thing, is even that 2-second spin of the Game of Thrones like logo is like has more information than what I got from that opening. You know? Like,
And people in the live chat, someone pay Carmine. Carmine came up with something better. They should be ashamed.
Fuck yeah, that's way better because like if you're gonna go by Targaryen lineage, it should be how they conquered Westeros, and then you have streaks of blood flowing to the Stormlands, and then into Winterfell and the I think one of the reasons they couldn't do that map thing that the original had is because we don't fucking go anywhere. We're in King's Landing and then Dragonstone, and then I guess we're in the Kingswood. I don't know if you saw the preview, Phil, but
Yeah.
the White Stag storyline, Preston. It wasn't this episode; it's next.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra in the preview, you can see she runs off, and it's a blink and you'll miss. Like apparently she's in the forest and she gets ambushed by something. We don't see what, but like okay, so we go to King's Landing, Dragonstone, and the next episode, I'm assuming the Kingswood, and then the Stepstones.
Yep.
And then Driftmark, of course, but Driftmark is like right next to Dragonstone, so
Yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's just. Or maybe it should have just been slower and focus on the family tree, and then as the time went on, then the family tree grows. You can kind of see these new characters appear.
And that's a good point and good question. Do you think we're moving too fast, Preston?
I do.
It seems like we have 6 months, and it was like, oh, it's 6 months later. They made that one line where Damon's been control of Dragon, so that could have been. We could have seen him establishing it. Because what I enjoy about this episode was it taking its time, but I feel like they're already sort of like I don't know, but
I definitely think the show is going way too fast. It could have been fine if we went. I would have gone I would have added B plots. I would have added a Stark B plot. I would have added a Lyse B plot, and then we would have had those different locations, and then we'd be able to like breathe a little and get to know the different characters. Maybe and rather than have the actor switch and the big time jump in the middle of the season, have it at the end of the season. Switch the actors at the end of the season. That's how I would have done it. But
I thought you were crazy when you first, because you brought this up on the podcast. I thought you were crazy when you said it, but I keep forgetting. Around this time, after Rickard dies, Cregan has a whole succession crisis thing with his uncles. Remember that?
Yeah.
So that could be the B plot. You are correct. By the way, someone also said something. I got called an idiot for this in my comment section, that motherfucker. But I'm glad someone called it out. Where are you? Where's Edwin here? Edwin says, anyone noticed Michael Moorcock's 8-pointed chaos symbol in the intro? So yeah, when the blood comes together and it's House Targaryen at the very end, it looks like the chaos symbol from Michael Moorcock.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Oh.
I don't know if that's by design, but that looks nice. Looks nifty.
We got a text message. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm bringing this?
Yes. The Targaryen symbol is like right in the middle.
I guess it makes sense considering he's stolen so much from Michael Moorcock.
And what'd you say, Phil? We have a text?
707 asks, will season 1 of House of Dragon end with the beginning of the Dance of the Dragons?
Yeah.
Yeah, my prediction is that the finale will be the fight over Storm's End. Carmine thinks that the fight over Storm's End will happen earlier.
And a follow-up question to that. Hey, thanks for everything you guys put out. Do you think that the show will have any major plot divergences from the source material? I mean, they already kind of have with aging up certain characters. I think it makes a big difference, or aging down certain characters in both situations creates different dynamics. But do you think they're gonna do any major differences moving forward?
I mean, I think the major differences that they've gone with are mainly personality stuff. Like they've definitely made Daemon Targaryen into a somewhat lost schizophrenic character rather than him being pure evil or pure good. And this is all like the effect of what do you do with the ambiguous source. So they're doing their best with the ambiguous source, and I do like how they just leave certain scenes to the imagination. Like they just don't show Alicent sleeping with Viserys. We all assume it. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But I do like that ambiguity. So yeah. But I don't think they're going to be making anything too large when it comes to like plot changes, except for maybe, I mean, um, especially with just Ryan Condal's attitude. I don't know, like, besides moving things around, but I don't think there's going to be anything big that changes.
And this one's from 951. Do you think that TTB is part of the dragon hatching process and he can only do it via people who are late term pregnant or giving birth with dragon X genes / green seer genes because they are akin to sensory deprivation experiences in the moment? That's a deep text.
Oh, I mean, I got a lot of that. You'll have to read it again, but
let me read it one more time. Do you
yeah.
think that TTB is part of the dragon hatching process, and he can
time
only
traveling
do
Bran? Okay,
time traveling Bran is part of the dragon hatching process, and he can only do it via people who are late term pregnant or giving birth with dragon X genes / green seer genes because they are akin to sensory deprivation experiences in the moment.
I mean, I think it's a little. I think it's a little far, but it's interesting to like. I'm thinking not of like the mother. I'm thinking of time traveling Bran, skin changing a floating fetus in the dark, right? Like a fetus floating in the dark, and him like going in and then like doing something as a floating fetus in the dark, activating a dragon egg. I think that's very creative. I don't. It's maybe a little too much like butterfly effect plot, right? Where he actually time travels into a fetus.
I forgot about that movie, the Austin Kutcher butterfly.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how like such a bad movie is like referenced so many times because it's such a cool premise.
Yep.
Like the premise is so masterful, but like the execution is dreadful. But like that movie is just like so important to people's like to sci-fi fans and like their discussion of things. But so I mean, I think that's a creative idea and interesting, but no, I don't think. I think it's a little too far in what George is thinking of. Yeah. Nano says that the intro could have been like tarot cards. Of each character. That's true.
No, my idea is better.
The intro should have been a Targaryen family tree. I mean, that's what they were trying to do. It was trying to be a Targaryen family tree. That's what the blood flows were supposed to do. But it was hard to read what those seals were. And then this is gonna be my last super chat because I've been on 3 hours and I need to get off and take a rest. Would House of the Dragon feel more like Game of Thrones with more characters, locations, and plot lines when the dance happens similar to the War of the Five Kings? Yeah, I mean that's what I was like. They're clearly trying to do that with because Game of Thrones like first season was build up, and then second season is War of the Five Kings, and then third season is like the wind down from so I think they were thinking the same kind of thing. Like, okay, well, we can do build up with season 1, and then we'll get into the war, which will be like seasons 2 and 3. And then if there's still ratings, maybe we can do like Hour of the Wolf as season 4 or something like that. I guess they were unsure of how many seasons they'd get, so they want to move it as fast as possible. I would have slowed it down. I would have slowed it down and had the third season be the Dance of the Dragons, but then you're banking on like you're trying to pitch. I understand it. You're trying to pitch like 5 seasons to HBO rather than something that's 2 or 3, which is a big difference. So
to be fair, Preston, even even in Game of Thrones, the War of Five Kings starts in season 1.
Yeah, officially, right? Yeah, I mean, I guess with Tyrion's war at the Green Fork and all of that. Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, it's but like I say, they have this other war. They have this war in the Stepstones that they could have extended out longer and made it be a real plot point. But I don't know. Yeah, no, just how I would have done things. Just one more season to slow it down, get to know these characters before aging them up and killing them.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking about poor fucking like Lena Valarian. Like we give her a cameo in the pilot, we introduce her in this episode, and then we've got to get her married off to Damon and then dead. like by like episode 4, or Lanor, like fucking Lanor. He hasn't. We have a cameo of him. He's not in the second episode at all. We've got to introduce him and then kill him off so fast.
He's in the background for the preview for the 3rd episode, and he's grown.
Yeah. So
he's a grown boy.
Time's moving so quickly, and I agree. I think especially because some of these young actors are doing a good job in these roles, they could have done a whole season in sort of this young age, and then had the next season have the other actors come in or something like that. Because they knew going in they'd get 2 seasons. The way they quickly, there was no way that this. I know they're touting this as the biggest premiere of HBO history, and it is, but there was no way it wasn't going to be. It was.
It's true.
So it's anything, the premiere of Succession will be that, will beat that, or the next big thing, whatever the big HBO thing is going to be that. So I think they knew they were going to get a second season to begin with. So I don't know. Does that mean, do you think they're going to flash back to the past once we go to the future? Or
No.
Once we go to the future, this is the last we'll see of these actors?
I do think it's the last we're going to see of these actors.
I think we will flash back maybe one more time at the very, 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 very end when a certain character is about to die, and it flashes back to happier times. I think that's when we'll get it.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, so I got to call out Damon for being such a dick. So in episode 1, he's disparaging the shit out of Rhea Royce. Look up the actress who plays her, Rachel Redford. Yo, that is
Robert Redford's daughter. Maybe?
Is she Robert? I don't know if she's
No,
Redford's
I don't know. I'm just making that up.
Rachel Redford, very, very goddamn good looking. Fuck. She's apparently gonna play Rhea Royce, who is Damon's wife. Dude, she is. You high? She's very good looking. Way better looking than Massara. I know, but look at it, Preston. You know you want to look at it.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know you're
hot,
wrapping
right?
up, but we do have one last voicemail.
Okay.
Let's play this. This is our last voicemail of the night.
Hey Phil. Okay, so Rhaenyra made her suggestion at the small council meeting. We should send in the dragons. Put me in, coach. Everyone was really dismissive and patronizing to her. And then right after, we have the scene with Rhaenys where they talk about sexism. The implication was that she was shot down unfairly. She had a good idea. She was shot down because of sexism. So isn't that framing kind of suggesting that burning people with dragons was the smart thing to do, the smart, strong thing to do? Viserys was just too weak to do it and too sexist to listen to Rhaenyra. It kind of seems like a weird choice for this. It seems off-brand for George and his pacifism. That's it. Thanks.
Is the Targaryen is this show telling us that the right thing to do is to burn people with dragonfire?
Well, I mean, this is the weird contradiction as well that the show is going into, that they have presented Rhaenyra as the protagonist, and Rhaenyra is going to do some fucking crazy ass shit like later on, right? It's the same with it's. I mean, Rhaenyra is a mirrored character to Daenerys. They're pretty, So I guess it was the same with Daenerys. Like when we cheered when she burned the people at Astapor, and we cheered when she, destroyed the slavers in Slavers Bay and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's just supposed to be like that. We're supposed to. She's being presented as the protagonist. We're all supposed to think that the right decision is to be strong in war, and then later we're supposed to be like, oh, right, actually, these dragons kind of suck. I think that's what's really going on. But yeah, Carmen and I've discussed this as well about the sex gender issue. Like, was George R. R. Martin being progressive by having a female villain, being willing to have a female villain,
Yeah.
or because when so many people are going to take it as crazy women kind of thing. And I don't know what his decision process was, but Rhaenyra's definitely going to be a villain later on, as is Alicent. So we've got two villains going to be fighting each other.
This shows going to have a lack of actual heroes or people to root for moving forward throughout the series. That's
Oh
going to
yeah,
be one.
absolutely. Yeah.
A couple of silly questions. Will Preston ever redo any of his older videos like the Tower of Joy with new thoughts or something like that?
I mean, it's a long list of videos that I got to produce.
And then we'll just lightning round this. Been a fan of Preston since the Pink Letter mystery. Don't comment much and took years to even make an account. So late on this, but for the first chapter of The Fan Wins, why is Dany captured in the book? In the book Drogon, but Drogon is still with her when the scouts roll up on her after he eats a rider in his mount. Did D&D spoil something?
So he doesn't eat a rider. He like chases after that horse, right? Does he kill a rider? I know he maybe I have to read, but I do know that it's established in that last Daenerys chapter that Drogon returns back to Dragonstone at sunset, and then the episode ends talking about how the sun is setting. So this idea that he's gonna like abandon her and then she's gonna get captured, and so like even before the Game of Thrones episode, many in the fandom were talking about how the dragon was going to actually like leave, and Daenerys was going to be captured. This was not an idea that like came out of nowhere, like came from the show. Like when the show did it, a lot of fans were like, "Yep, that was kind of expected that Drogon would abandon her and then like she would get captured." And that's also just because like she needs to be in Vastoth Rock for her vision from the House of the Undying. So. It's a little weird. Like a lot of people are like, why would her dragon abandon her? Well, it's a little forced, like I admit, but it's also like there wasn't established like he goes back to Dragonstone at sunset kind of thing. And we have to eventually get to the point where the prophecy is occurring. So like why would an animal that has a telepathic link with her like leave her? I don't know, but he left her and for all of A Dance with Dragons too. So I don't know. So that's more or less it. That's it. Yeah. Anything else, Phil?
No, that is all those texts and voicemails. Thank you guys for leaving them. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Carmine, for
Are we coming back?
Well.
Are we coming back Friday for Rings of Power?
Oh yeah, that premieres Friday. Oh no. I love when Carmine laughs like that. That's his. This is gonna be.
I know
he juicy laugh.
It's because he's so tired. He's so tired.
Carmine's just laughing at me. He called me last night, and he's like, let's record, and I'm like, I just put the kid to bed. Like, no fucking way.
Stop.
Next podcast episode is on your channel. So whenever you want to record that, I'm 110% down. You want to record that like my morning, your night, like in.
Preston's. Carmine's ready to go right after you hang up here. He's like, "Oh, you want to record right now? I'll record right now."
Oh, dude, I'm fucking. I've been drinking water. I'm hydrated. I'm fucking down. I'm do a backflip.
But
jig.
you should have Phil as my replacement. When I'm unavailable.
I already asked him. I asked Trey if he'd be down as well.
We already touched base. We're gonna figure it out when you're on hiatus between all the guests. All the guest hosts here. We'll fill in while you're doing God's work, Preston. While you're doing God's work.
Oh, by the way, yeah, announce that here that you're gonna take a brief hiatus for how many weeks? I don't
know. Look, I'm gonna try to try to do what I can here and there. Like I'm not like disappearing for like many
What
weeks.
bad timing, Preston, you guys have,
But
with this pick in this season.
but I'm saying when a certain event happens, like it'll be a few days where I'm just like radio silence. So
No, of course.
Adam in the live chat says, see, even Preston designates a replacement. Come on, George, get it done.
But no, Rings of Power. Friday. Can't wait.
Oh my goodness.
all right, guys. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Maybe next week. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll see.
Ticking time.
Ticking. It's just a ticking time bomb. Ticking time bomb.
It's just a ticking time bomb. Preston could disappear at any time now.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.